I was just leaving work late at night when a red sports car hit me. I flew through the air, landed in a pool of my own blood, and saw a woman step out of the car. That's the last thing I remember before everything went dark. But as I was dying, I saw another man's whole life flash before my eyes. His name was Lee Yofu, same as mine. He grew up in a small mountain village called Lee Family Village, born in the 1940s. When he was 18, a matchmaker named Mrs. Wang introduced him to a girl called Wang Shui from the next village over. He fell for her instantly. Her family demanded 100 yuan for the bride price, a crazy amount back then, but he swore he'd marry no one else. It was a terrible mistake. After they married, Wang Shui never gave him any children. Worse, she bled his family dry, funneling everything to her own brothers so they could get wives. Her family got richer while his got poorer. His sisters sacrificed everything trying to help him. One ended up disabled, one was beaten to death by her husband, one was sold off to an old man in the mountains. The rest of his siblings cut ties with him completely. And Wang Shui? She divorced him as soon as the reform era began. He died middle-aged with nothing, hit by a truck, full of regret and hate. Then I woke up on a hard clay bed, drenched in sweat. This wasn't my rental apartment. I was in a rundown room with a cracked old table. Somehow, I had become that man, the young version of him. Tall, good-looking, strong. It was October 1960. I accepted it pretty quickly. Back in my old life, I was an orphan with nobody to miss me. And honestly, there was something thrilling about being here, at the start of everything my grandparents' generation lived through. But 1960 was hard. The whole country was in the middle of a famine. In the cities, people had ration cards and jobs, but still walked around with yellow, starving faces. In the countryside, eating 2 meals of wild vegetable soup a day was considered lucky. Most people ate once a day, sometimes once every 2 days. Our village hadn't lost anyone to starvation yet, but nobody was full either. I thought about what I could do with my knowledge of the future. Not much. Private business was illegal. Getting caught trading on the black market could get you shot. Moving to the city required connections and paperwork I didn't have. And I knew the political storms coming in a few years would make everything even harder. I wished I had endless grain. I could feed my family and help the good people who were quietly suffering. The moment that thought crossed my mind, I was suddenly standing in a strange, magical space. About 2 acres of rich black soil, a glowing spring of clear water, a bright red sun overhead, and mist all around the edges. It was like something out of a TV show, a spiritual spring and a pocket dimension, all mine. I felt like fate had sent me here for a reason. Not just to fix this man's ruined life, but for something bigger. Then I heard voices outside the door. Mrs. Wang the matchmaker was here, chatting with my mother. Today was the day we were supposed to go to Wang Shui's family and formally propose marriage. Mrs. Wang was buttering up my mother, telling her Wang Shui looked like she'd bear lots of sons. My mother smiled and promised a generous matchmaker's gift. She had no idea the Wang family was about to double the bride price to 100 yuan. I already knew everything. The greed, the betrayal, the decades of misery that marriage would bring. I had already decided I would never marry Wang Shui. Not in this life. But just letting her family off easy? No, I couldn't do that either. I got dressed and walked out the door. I got dressed, a gray cotton jacket, green military-style pants, and rubber-soled shoes. That was pretty much all anyone wore back then. Colors were limited to gray, blue, black, and army green. If you could walk around in full military green, you were the coolest guy in the village. Mrs. Wang looked me up and down and said I looked handsome. I smiled back at her and called out to my mother. She noticed something a little different about me today, but figured I'd just grown up overnight. Honestly, I was relieved she didn't ask too many questions. I'd already decided I would never tell her the truth about who I really was inside. We walked to Wang Shui's village, about 2 or 3 miles away. By the time we got there, I was out of breath. This body was seriously weak. I made a mental note to start exercising once I got back. Then Wang Shui stepped out. She was about 5'3", with 2 braids, fair skin, and a pretty face. In a time when everyone looked pale and sickly from hunger, she stood out. Even her worn, patched-up clothes couldn't hide her figure. She had this helpless, delicate look on her face that could melt any man. No wonder the original Li Yofu had been completely wrapped around her finger. Even by modern standards, she'd be considered decent-looking. She called out shyly, "Brother Yofu, Auntie Jiang, Mrs. Wang," then ran back inside to get her mother. Half a minute later, her mother Chen Xiaoying came out, along with Wang Shui's 3 older brothers and 1 younger brother. They lived in 2 cramped mud houses behind a low fence. You could tell right away this family had nothing. Chen Xiaoying smiled and said we could talk in the yard since there wasn't enough room inside. Mrs. Wang got straight to business. If both sides agreed, we'd settle the bride price today, get the village certificate, and go register the marriage. My mother pulled out the money. 50 yuan. Cash. The moment that money appeared, Wang Shui's brother's eyes went wide. Chen Xiaoying's face lit up with pure greed. In those days, most bride prices were 5 or 10 yuan. Some families married off daughters for 5 pounds of cornmeal. 50 yuan was unheard of in this area. I watched their faces and felt my blood boil. I already knew what was coming. Chen Xiaoying spoke up. 50 yuan isn't enough. We want 100. Not 1 cent less, or Wang Shui doesn't marry into your family. 100 yuan. Mrs. Wang nearly fainted. She'd been a matchmaker her whole life and had never heard of such a number. My mother stood there shaking with anger. Even though I already knew this was coming, seeing the greed on their faces in person still made me furious. 100 yuan back, then was staggering. A whole rural family would need 3 or 4 years of saving every penny to scrape that together. This wasn't just asking for a lot. This was bleeding my family dry. And in the previous life, the original Li Youfu had been too stupid to see it. All he saw was Wang Shui's sweet, pitiful expression. The money ended up coming from his sisters. One sister was sold off to a violent old widower in the mountains just to cover the cost. Nobody ever heard from her again. Not this time. I wasn't just going to refuse. I was going to destroy this family's reputation. Chen Xiaoying tried to guilt me, saying Wang Shui would be slaving away for my family and deserved security. I smiled and nodded. You're absolutely right, Annie Chun. My mother looked horrified, but I squeezed her hand to calm her down. Then I said it loud and clear, we don't have 100 yuan. And even if we did, I wouldn't spend it on a woman like her. Whoever wants to marry Wang Shui can have her. I'm not interested. The villagers who had been gathering around the fence heard everything. 100 yuan bride price. Their jaws dropped. Nobody in that village could come up with even 50. More and more people crowded around to watch. Chen Xiaoying started screaming at them to leave, to stop eavesdropping. But the angrier she got, the wider I smiled. This was nothing. Compared to what her family did to mine in the last life, this was barely the beginning. I looked at her and said, Annie Chun, since we're all neighbors here, why don't you say it again, nice and loud, so everyone can hear exactly what happened today? Every single person who knew me stared like they'd seen a ghost. Wang Shui's brothers looked like they'd been slapped. They never expected me, the guy who swore he'd marry no one but Wang Shui, to flat out refuse her. Without me, how were they going to get wives? Then Chen Xiaoying secretly pinched Wang Shui, and right on cue, the waterworks started. Wang Shui looked at me with teary eyes and whimpered, Brother Youfu, you're misunderstanding. My mother just wants what's best for our future. I cut her off cold. Save it. In the old life, one look at those tears and the original Li Youfu would have been on his knees begging forgiveness. But now, all I felt looking at this White Lotus act was disgust. I told her plainly, real or fake misunderstanding, I didn't care. We were done. I would never marry a woman like her. End of story. Wang Shui's face went white. She collapsed on the ground crying, wailing that she wanted to die. Chen Xiaoying put on her own show, sobbing about her poor daughter being abandoned. Then she played her nastiest card. She pointed at her sons and screamed, Are you just going to stand there while your sister gets bullied? Then she turned on me. Li Youfu, if you don't give my family an explanation today, I'll go to the commune and report you for being a hooligan. My blood ran cold. In this era, being accused of hooliganism with a woman could get you executed. It was no joke. My mother nearly collapsed. My 5th sister Li Yudi had to hold her up. But Mom was ready to fight. She screamed back at Chen Xiaoying, threatening to rip her mouth apart. Wang Shui's brothers started moving toward me. I stared them down and said, If any of you lay a finger on me today, I'll make sure you rot in prison. They stopped. Then I turned to the crowd that had gathered around the fence. Everyone listen. I've only met Wang Shui 3 times total. I've never even touched her hand. How exactly did I act like a hooligan? I looked at Mrs. Wong. Mrs. Wong. Am I lying about anything? She shook her head. No, that's exactly what happened. The crowd erupted. People started talking over each other. Someone laughed bitterly. 100 yuan bride price? That woman's out of her mind. Others said, this is going to ruin our whole village's reputation. Who's going to want to marry girls from Wong family village after this? Women who had daughters of their own glared at Chen Xiuying with open hostility. Then I twisted the knife. I said loudly. She saw I wouldn't pay 100 yuan, so she made up the hooligan accusation. Do you all know what the punishment for hooliganism is? You can get shot for that. How is this any different from what the old landlords used to do? That word, landlord, hit like a bomb. The country had only been liberated for about 10 years. People hated anything that smelled like the old ruling class. Getting labeled as a landlord type could destroy your entire life. The crowd turned vicious. People started calling Chen Xiuying every name in the book, demanding she be thrown out of the village. Then the village chief showed up, an older man named Wang Weigua, holding a tobacco pipe. He asked what was going on, and someone filled him in. Chen Xiuying grabbed his arm, pleading innocence. He shook her off with visible disgust, then turned to me. I introduced myself calmly, presented my mother and fifth sister, and laid out my case. Chen Xiuying had falsely accused me of hooliganism. I needed this cleared up. If that kind of rumor followed me, I'd never be able to marry anyone. The village chief looked surprised at how calm and articulate I was. He suggested the Wong family compensate me. Chen Xiuying immediately screamed, "No, we don't have a single cent." The chief's face turned red with anger. He was trying to smooth things over, and she was making it worse. I didn't care about money from them anyway. They had nothing worth taking. So I said, forget the compensation. But I want Chen Xiuying to apologize to me in front of everyone for the false hooligan accusation. And I never want to hear any rumors connecting me to the Wong family again. The chief agreed immediately. He forced Chen Xiuying to apologize. She mumbled a weak, sorry. He made her say it louder. I kept a serious face, but inside I was thrilled. I said to the crowd, I hope everyone heard that. I have nothing to do with Wang Shui or her family. She can marry whoever she wants. I still need to find myself a wife. The village chief warned everyone not to spread gossip, then told them all to get back to work. I gathered my mother and fifth sister, and we left. Behind us, as soon as we were out of sight, I heard the slap. Chen Xiuying hitting Wang Shui across the face, screaming at her, calling her a curse on the family, blaming her for the whole disaster. Wang Shui cried that it wasn't her fault, but her mother kept hitting her, saying it was Wang Shui who suggested raising the bride price in the first place. After we left Wang family village, we split up with Mrs. Wang and headed home. We had no idea that Wang Shui got beaten up by her mother after we left. My fifth sister Yudi looked at me like I was some kind of hero. Little brother, you were amazing. She couldn't believe it. This was the same lazy, useless brother she'd always known. Back there, she'd been too scared to say a single word, but I'd stood in front of everyone and made Chen Xiuying apologize. I looked at her and thought to myself, if I hadn't been amazing today, she would have been sold off to some old widower in the mountains and never seen again. But I couldn't say that out loud. All I knew was that I'd just changed her fate. From now on, things would only get better. My mother asked if I was really serious about not marrying Wang Shui. I told her I was dead serious. Then I leaned in close and whispered to both of them, I have to tell you something. Last night, I dreamed about our ancestors. They stared at me. Our ancestor told me in the dream that Wang Shui is bad luck. If I married her, I'd end up with no children and a ruined family. My mother spat 3 times to ward off the bad luck from those words, but I kept a straight face. Mom, I'm not making this up. You saw what happened today. They wanted 100 yuan. Could our family really afford that? She frowned, but I could tell she already half believed me. How else could she explain the sudden change in me? I was like a completely different person. The old Li Youfu would have done anything to marry Wang Shui, even if it meant bankrupting the whole family. Did the ancestor say anything else? She asked. He taught me some skills. Mom, trust me. Our family's life is going to get better and better. We'll have meat with every meal. My fifth sister's eyes lit up. Even fatty pork? Mom smacked her with a look. All you think about is eating. You think meat grows on trees. I laughed. Mom, don't be hard on her. It's just a piece of meat. Our ancestor said good days are coming. Mom smiled wide. My son truly is blessed. Even the ancestors are looking out for him. Then she told Yuri to remember my kindness and always support her brother. In Mom's mind, sons were the real treasure. Daughters existed to help them. When she started worrying about my marriage again, I told her not to rush. I was still young, and when I did marry, I'd bring home a city girl, not some village wife. That made her grin from ear to ear. All right then, I'll be waiting for my city daughter-in-law. Now let's hurry home. I need to burn some paper offerings to thank the ancestors. I was surprised she accepted everything so quickly, but it actually worked in my favor. From now on, anything strange about me could be blamed on the ancestors. No more awkward explanations. When we got home, I spotted a cloth bag on the table. Cornmeal, about 3 or 4 pounds. Mom said it was probably from my second sister. In my previous life, I'd been too obsessed with the 100 yuan bride price to even notice. Now I realized my second sister had been quietly bringing us food while her own family was starving. She had 2 growing boys to feed. Mom, send it back to her. What's her family going to eat? Mom looked a little surprised that I was thinking about my sister for once, but she agreed. She sent Yuri to cook and went off to buy some yellow paper for the ancestor offerings. That left me alone, the one person with nothing to do. I smiled and went back to my room. It was time to explore the spiritual spring space properly. The moment I thought about it, I was there. I was certain now. Only I could see or access this space. Nobody else would ever know. Instructions flooded my mind, like a manual downloading into my brain. I could enter and leave the space freely, but I could also use my mental energy to move objects in and out without physically going inside. That was huge. It meant I wouldn't have to disappear and reappear like some kind of ghost. The space had 2 main areas, 2 acres of rich black soil, and a small wooden cabin. Each had different time rules. Inside the cabin, time stood completely still, perfect for storing food. On the black soil, time moved 10 times faster than the outside world. But the most incredible thing was this. I could use my mental energy on the soil like a fertilizer, speeding up crop growth even more. Normally, wheat takes 90 to 120 days to grow. With the 10 times speed, that's only 9 to 12 days. Add my mental ability on top of that, and I could make it even faster. The downside was that my mental energy was limited. I could probably only boost 1 or 2 seeds before running out. Still, I was thrilled. And then there was the spring itself. I drank a couple mouthfuls and immediately felt stronger, like my whole body had been charged up. It even seemed to boost my mental power. But there was a catch. Drinking too much made me incredibly hungry, like I could eat a whole cow. Lucky for me, Yuri was already cooking dinner. Lunch was simple, a plate of stir-fried wild greens and a few cornmeal buns called wotu. I was used to good food from my previous life, so this was rough. The first bite scratched my throat going down. It was almost impossible to swallow. But I was so hungry from drinking that spirit spring water that I forced down 2 buns before the hunger finally eased. Mom offered to get me more from the kitchen, but I told her to save them for my 4th sister-in-law. Mom scoffed. She eats at the village canteen, don't worry about her. But I knew the truth. Nobody was getting full at that canteen. In a couple more months, the village canteens would stop serving meals altogether. Mom mentioned that people up north and out east had already stripped the trees bare of bark. She didn't even know the half of it. I knew from history that some provinces had it far worse. It was like hell on earth. Our area was only slightly better because we were surrounded by mountains and rivers. I took a deep breath and told Mom I wanted to go check out the back mountains. She panicked. The back mountains? Are you crazy? There are wild boars up there. And bears. Last year the commune sent a hunting party and 2 men died. One got his guts ripped out by a boar. I calmed her down. Mom, I'm just going to the outer edge, not deep inside. Our ancestor taught me how to set traps. Maybe I'll catch a rabbit or something. She finally agreed, but made me promise to stay out of the deep forest. Of course, I wasn't telling her my real plan. With the spirit spring space, I could hide inside it instantly if anything went dangerous. What was risky for everyone else was an opportunity for me. And honestly, I couldn't stop thinking about wild game, boar meat, bear paw, all the things you couldn't even dream of eating in my old life. My mouth was watering just thinking about it. Meanwhile, back at Wang Shue's house, things weren't so peaceful. After the beating from her mother, Wang Shue had to chop firewood and cook with bruises all over her body. She made wild vegetable soup. Just boiling water with a few leaves and a tiny handful of cornmeal stirred in. No oil, barely any salt. Disgusting stuff. Her brothers and mother ate their bowls while Wang Shui just stood there watching, swallowing her own spit. "Mom, I'm hungry," she finally said. Another slap. "Hungry? Why don't you just starve to death, you money-losing thing? You ruined your brother's chances of getting wives. You want our family line to die out." Wang Shui begged her brothers for help, but they all turned on her too. The oldest said their mother was right. The second brother said 50 yuan was already plenty, and she got greedy wanting 100. The third brother just snorted. Wang Shui cried her eyes out. It wasn't fair. The whole family had agreed to raise the price together. Now they were dumping all the blame on her. Then Qin Xiuying gave her an order. "Go find Li Yufu right now. Tell him you'll accept 50 yuan. He's crazy about you. He'll say yes. I don't care if you have to beg or cry. If your brothers can't get wives because of you, I'll sell you to an old widower in the mountains." Wang Shui's body shook with fear. She knew what that meant. "Yes, Mom. I understand, but I didn't know any of this yet." I was already heading up the mountain with a shovel over my shoulder. The walk that used to exhaust me only took half an hour this time. The spirit spring water had really done its job. I was stronger, faster, and my whole body felt tougher. I would have drunk more if it didn't make me so desperately hungry. I passed through the outer edges of the forest where I could still see women and children digging for wild vegetables. After about another hour of walking, I reached the deep forest and slowed down. Soon I found a low area where the tree bark had been rubbed shiny smooth, and there were fresh boar tracks all over the ground. I'd found the right spot. I picked a shaded area where a tree blocked the sunlight, right along the boar's path. I started digging. It took about 30 minutes to carve out a pit, 5 feet long, 3 feet wide, and 3 feet deep. My arms felt like they were going to fall off. Only the thought of eating meat kept me going. After resting, I smoothed the ground around the trap, sharpened some thick branches into stakes, and planted them at the bottom of the pit. All I needed now was some bait and a cover of loose branches to hide the hole. I looked up and froze. Then a wave of excitement hit me. I looked up and spotted a huge bird's nest wedged in the branches about 40 feet above the ground, big as a wash basin. My mouth started watering immediately. Ever since I arrived in this body, I couldn't stop craving food. It was driving me crazy. The nest was way too high to climb. Even if I made it up there, finding it empty would have killed me. But then my hand touched the tree trunk and, whoosh, the entire nest appeared inside my spirit spring space. I couldn't believe it. I thought I had to physically touch something to pull it into the space. But I could use the tree as a bridge, a connection. This changed everything. Inside the nest were 6 bird eggs and 1 colorful bird I couldn't name. The bird was frozen still, completely motionless in the space. I tested it by putting the nest back. The bird instantly came alive and flew away, terrified. So that's how it worked. Living things freeze inside the space, but come back to normal once they leave. I pulled the nest back in, keeping the 6 eggs. Each one was about half the size of a chicken egg. Not bad at all. In the future, taking wild eggs could land you in prison, but in 1960, even tigers were considered pests. I had zero guilt. Even better, I found 3 or 4 pumpkin seeds the bird had stored in the nest. I nearly shouted with joy. Pumpkin seeds. Pumpkins are high nutrition, filling, and incredibly productive. A well-tended acre can produce over 10,000 pounds. Who cares if eating too much pumpkin gives you gas? In a famine, a full belly is a full belly. I planted the 4 seeds in the black soil of my space, spaced about 3 feet apart, and sprinkled spirit spring water on them. Then I focused all my mental energy on one seed to speed up its growth. I watched it sprout, grow vines, and produce fruit right before my eyes. I remembered hearing that you should trim pumpkin vines down to 2 or 3 main ones for the biggest results. Whether it was the magical soil or the spirit water, the results were incredible. 11 pumpkins, each one weighing 20 to 30 pounds. But my mental energy was nearly drained. I felt like I'd worked a 10-hour shift and just wanted to sleep. I forced down 2 more sips of spirit water to clear my head. Then I heard rustling nearby. I tensed up, ready to jump into the space if it was something dangerous. But it was just 2 wild pheasants flapping around in the grass. I crept close, touched the grass, and sucked them both into the space. They froze mid-flap. Where there are pheasants, there are nests. I searched the area and found 3 nests with 16 eggs total. I took every single one. I decided to call it a day. 2 pheasants weighing over a pound each, 16 pheasant eggs, 6 bird eggs, and 11 massive pumpkins. Not a bad haul for my first trip into the mountains. I broke open one pumpkin, saved the seeds for future planting, and dropped the chunks into my pit trap as bait. Then I covered the hole with loose branches. Unless you looked carefully, you'd never know it was there. The rest was up to luck. On my way back out of the deep forest, I checked that nobody was around, then pulled the 2 pheasants out of the space and tied them to my shovel. I couldn't let anyone know about my secret, ever. Liyofu. Hey, little brother. It was my 5th sister running toward me and leaving her bamboo basket behind. Slow down, you'll trip, I called out. Watching her run over, sweating and worried about me, I felt something warm inside that I'd never experienced in my previous life. As an orphan, I'd never known what family felt like. But here, through my mother and Yudi, I was finally learning. I put down the pumpkin and shovel and wiped the sweat from her forehead. Why'd you come all the way out here? I asked. Mom sent me. She was worried since you've never been to the mountains before. She stopped mid-sentence, eyes locked on the ground. Then she screamed, Is that a pumpkin? Where did you find a pumpkin that big? She grabbed my arm, panicking. Are you insane carrying that thing around in the open? If anyone sees this, they'll lose their minds. I've seen people in the next village beat each other bloody over a handful of wild greens. She swallowed hard, staring at the pumpkin. Then she noticed the 2 pheasants tied to my shovel, and her jaw dropped even further. You caught those 2? Real wild chickens? That big, I grinned. Tonight, we're stewing chicken for dinner. It's been way too long since our family had meat. She could barely speak. I told her to grab the basket so we could get home and start cooking. But when we reached our front gate, there was someone standing there, someone who had no business being at our house. And the moment that person saw the pheasants hanging from my shovel, they froze. Brother Yofu, it was Wang Shui, the exact person I'd cut ties with just that morning, standing right at our gate. My 5th sister shot me a worried look, afraid I'd go soft again. I just smiled and told her to take the pheasants inside, boil some water, and start plucking feathers. I'd be right in. Wang Shui's eyes locked onto those 2 fat birds. She hadn't eaten anything since morning except a few sips of water. I could practically see her drooling. I knew exactly what she was thinking. If she could patch things up with me, she'd get to taste meat. I kept my voice cold. What are you doing here, Brother Yofu? I came to apologize. Fine. Apology accepted. You can leave now. She stood there stunned. This wasn't how it was supposed to go in her head. She'd expected me to pull her into my arms the moment I saw her, and then she'd graciously offer to lower the bride price back to 50 yuan. She still thought the only reason I'd changed was because of the money. She had no idea a completely different person was living inside this body now. She started crying. Brother Yofu, you know how I feel about you. I talked to my mother. We'll keep the bride price at 50. No more increases. I almost laughed. And then what? Then? What do you mean? I dropped the smile. You think I'll spend 50 yuan on you? Not a chance. I will never marry you. She completely fell apart, sobbing and grabbing at me. Meanwhile inside, Yudi showed Mom the pheasants and the pumpkin. Mom nearly lost her mind. 2 birds that fat, almost 5 pounds together. And this pumpkin, 20-something pounds? I've never seen one this big in my life. Then Yudi whispered that Wang Shui was at the gate. Mom dropped the pumpkin and stormed outside like a charging bull. She arrived just as Wang Shui was pulling at my sleeve. Get your hands off him. Mom shoved herself between us. We already settled things between our families. Why are you still chasing my son? Wang Shui grabbed Mom's pant leg, crying. Auntie Jiang, I truly love Brother Yofu. I want to be your daughter-in-law. Mom spat on the ground. You keep hanging around my son, and I'll rip your face off. Now get out. Wang Shui covered her face and ran away crying. I gave Mom a thumbs up. I'd never realized how fierce she could be. But it made sense. All those years, the original Li Yofu had been so obsessed with Wang Shui that Mom had to swallow her anger. Now that I was on her side, she could finally let loose. Thinking about it, the original me really had been a terrible son. He'd missed so much. Mom checked me over for injuries, turning me around, pulling up my hands, inspecting everything. Only when she was sure I was fine did she relax. Try not to go up the mountain anymore, okay? If something happened to you, what would I do? She asked about the pumpkin. I told her I found it in the mountains and that there were 2 more I hadn't brought back. She didn't question it for a second. Inside, we all stared at the haul on the floor. Mom sat me down and said the pumpkin was too big for just our family. She wanted to cut it in half and send some to my grandparents. Half seems a little small, I said. Why don't we send them one of the pheasants too? Let them have some meat. Mom slapped my back proudly. Listen to my boy. Yudi, go cut the pumpkin, pack up a chicken. Your brother's sending it to his grandparents. I told Mom to let Yudi deliver it since I could barely move. She wanted me to go and show off a little, but she could see I was exhausted, so she let it go. Yudi headed out with the basket and bumped into my 4th sister-in-law, Jean Yume, at the gate. They exchanged quick hellos, and a minute later my sister-in-law walked in with her little kid. Mother, little brother-in-law, she greeted us. I smiled. Welcome home, 4th sister-in-law. My 4th sister-in-law, Jean Yume, was a typical village woman. Honest, hard-working, wheat-colored skin, 2 braids, patched-up clothes. She was holding the hand of her little girl, Daya, who wasn't even 2 yet. The kid was adorable, big bright eyes and a pretty face, but skinny, dirty, hair a mess, wearing clothes that didn't fit and hadn't been washed in who knows how long. There's our Daya. I grinned and pulled 2 pheasant eggs out of my pocket like a magic trick. The little girl's eyes lit up instantly. I picked her up. Come to your Uncle 6. My sister-in-law looked like she'd seen a ghost. The old Liufu would never have touched this child. He didn't care about anyone except himself and Wang Shui. She stammered that Daya was dirty and would ruin my clothes. She's fine, I said. Go cook dinner. I'll watch her. Mom backed me up, so Yume went to the kitchen. A second later, I heard her gasp. She'd found the pheasant and the half pumpkin. I called out instructions. Stew the chicken, steam the pumpkin in chunks, then mix it with cornmeal. It comes out sweet and delicious. While Mom plucked feathers in the yard, I washed Daya's hands and face until she was clean and pretty. Then I gave Yume more pheasant eggs, 1 to cook up soft for Daya, and 4 more so we could each have 1. These are too precious, she said. I'll just make Daya some vegetable soup. Vegetable soup has no nutrition, I told her. She's growing. Just do what I say. Yume's eyes turned red and she couldn't speak. She looked like she was about to cry. I quickly excused myself and carried Daya back outside before things got too emotional. Watching me walk away, Yume wiped her tears hard. I think for the first time she felt like she truly belonged in this family. The old Liufu had never shown her or her daughter a moment of kindness. That was over now. Meanwhile, Yudi had arrived at our grandparents' house. Grandpa Li Shanjin was 62, still tough as nails, sitting in his chair smoking a pipe. Grandma pulled Yudi inside and asked if the visit was about my marriage situation. Yudi told them everything, the 100 yuan bride price, how I'd refused and publicly humiliated Wang Shui's family. 100 yuan. Both old people were shocked. Grandpa offered to have the family chip in to help pay, but Yudi waved her hands. He said whoever wants to marry her can have her. He's done with Wang Shui. Grandpa let out a sharp grunt. Now that's a really family man. If he'd been spineless enough to agree, I'd have banned him from this house. Grandma smacked his arm. Oh, shut up, old man. Then Yudi opened her basket and pulled out the pheasant and half the pumpkin. The old couple froze. These are all from your grandson, Yudi said proudly, standing straight and tall. He caught them in the mountains. He told me to make sure you eat everything and don't let it go to waste. Next time he goes up the mountain, he'll bring you more. Grandma slapped her thigh. My precious grandson. Your grandfather and I never got any good from our 2 sons, but our grandson is finally taking care of us. Grandpa got quiet for a moment, overcome with emotion. Then he went inside and came back with a bottle, his treasured sweet potato liquor. He poured out a third of it. Give this to my grandson. Tell him. This is his grandfather's way of saying he's proud of him. When Yudi came back, she handed me a small bottle, about a third full of sweet potato liquor. Grandpa sent this for you. He said it's his way of showing he's proud. Mom's face crinkled into a huge smile. Getting your grandpa's approval isn't easy, you know. Take it. I felt a little embarrassed, honestly. Yudi was starving and started whining about dinner. Mom scolded her. Your brother hasn't complained and you're already yelling, and sent her to help in the kitchen. A minute later, my sister-in-law brought out a bowl of 4 boiled pheasant eggs for me. Eat something first. Dinner's almost ready. She took Daya from me to feed her. The little girl had a small bowl of steamed egg custard. No seasoning at all, but she ate it like it was the most delicious thing in the world, going yeah, and slapping her little hands whenever the spoon was too slow. I teased her, trying to get her to say, yummy, but she couldn't manage it and almost started crying. That cracked me up. Mom came out and told me to put the child down, a grown man carrying a baby around all day. What does that look like? She didn't dislike DIGGER exactly, but in her mind, girls just weren't as important as boys. When dinner was finally served, Mom gave everyone a palm-sized piece of steamed pumpkin. I told her to steam the whole thing, but she only did half, saving the rest for tomorrow. Then Yudi brought out the chicken soup. Everyone got a bowl, but mine was the biggest, with 2 whole drumsticks inside. I picked up 1 drumstick and dropped it into Mom's bowl. This one's for you. You eat it. I've got meat in my bowl already. If it weren't for you, none of us would be eating meat at all. She put it right back. I played stubborn. If you don't eat it, then I won't eat either. Mom's eyes got shiny with tears, but she kept the drumstick this time. That made me happier than anything. In my other life, I was an orphan who dreamed about having a family like this. I split the 3 remaining boiled eggs among Mom, Yudi, and my sister-in-law the same way. It was the best meal any of us had eaten in a long time, maybe since last New Year. That wild pheasant, even without proper seasoning, was incredible. We drank every last drop of soup. Not a single thing was left. After dinner, the sky got dark. There was nothing to do in the evenings back then. No TV, no electricity. People just slept. Or made babies. That's why every family had 4 or 5 kids. I went back to my room, waited until the house was quiet, and slipped into my spirit spring space. Meanwhile, at Wang Shue's house, dinner was wild vegetable soup again. Wang Shue hadn't eaten all day, just a few sips of water. She was starving, but staring at that thin, tasteless soup while thinking about the 2 fat pheasants I'd brought home made her sick with jealousy. She blamed me. If I'd just agreed to marry her, she'd be eating chicken right now. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. Her mother wasn't any happier. The 100 yuan bride price story had spread everywhere. All afternoon, people had been pointing and whispering behind Chen Xiuying's back. Even worse, a marriage that had been arranged for the oldest brother Wang Jun fell apart. The girl's family heard about the 100 yuan demand and said if the Wangs thought their daughter was worth 100, then their own daughter was worth at least 30. The deal collapsed. Chen Xiuying was furious. She glared at Wang Shue. What did Li Youfu say? Did he agree to the 50? The 3 brothers all stared at Wang Shue. She just cried. Chen Xiuying twisted her skin hard. Wang Shue screamed and finally spoke. He didn't agree. Wang Jun slammed his fist on the table. He dared refuse. Wang Shue flinched. He's just angry right now, brother. Give me more time. I'll find a way to calm him down. Over at Wang Shue's house that night, things went from bad to worse. Her oldest brother said since I refused to marry her, keeping her at home was just wasting food. Better to marry her off quickly. Chen Xiuying agreed. She'd find a matchmaker tomorrow and look for some family far away, somewhere nobody had heard about their 100 yuan scandal. Wang Shue begged and cried. Don't send me far away. I'll never see you again. Just give me more time. I'll convince Brother Youfu to marry me. Once I'm in his family, I swear I'll help all my brothers get wives. The 2nd and 3rd brothers actually liked that idea. If Wang Shue got sold to some old man in the mountains, the money would only go toward the oldest brother's wife. They'd get nothing. But if she married me, maybe she really could help them later. The oldest brother scoffed. You really believe that? Li Youfu can't even afford 100 yuan. How is she going to help anyone? Then Wang Shue played her card. The Li family has money. Today I saw Brother Youfu carrying 2 wild pheasants. All 4 of them froze. Wild pheasants meant meat. They started drooling just thinking about it. Chen Xiuying cursed me. That ungrateful Li Youfu catches pheasants, but doesn't even think to bring some to his future mother-in-law. The brothers were angry and jealous. Finally, Chen Xiuying gave Wang Shue 1 week. If she couldn't win me back by then, she'd be married off to whoever would take her. Wang Shue agreed, relieved to have bought herself some time. Then her mother sent her to bed without dinner. Again, she spent the whole night hungry. I didn't know any of this, and if I had, I would have said, serves her right. That night, I checked on my spirit spring space before sleeping. The 3 pumpkin seeds I'd planted earlier had already sprouted, bright green shoots pushing up from the black soil. The growth speed was even faster than I expected. At this rate, I'd have a new harvest in 4 or 5 days. I cracked open my remaining 11 pumpkins and collected all the seeds, over 2,600 of them, enough to plant a full acre. The leftover pumpkin flesh would make great bait for more traps tomorrow. The best part was that inside the space, I didn't need to do anything by hand. I just used my mind to till the soil, plant the seeds, and make it rain spirit water over everything. It was effortless. After finishing, exhaustion hit me hard. I left the space and fell into the deepest, most peaceful sleep of either of my lives. No dreams, no tossing and turning. When I woke up, I felt completely refreshed, better than any sleeping pill could ever do. Everyone was already up. I greeted my sister-in-law and fifth sister. Yume was heading out with a shoulder pole and 2 wooden buckets to fetch water from the foot of the mountain. If Dia wakes up, could you keep an eye on her? She asked. The old Yofu would never have gotten that kind of trust. But after yesterday, she knew I genuinely cared about her daughter. I'll come with you after breakfast, I said. Then I noticed everyone looking at me strangely. Breakfast? Across the whole country, 90% of people only ate 2 meals a day, especially in the countryside. I looked at all 3 of them. From now on, our family eats 3 meals a day, Mom scoffed. Oh sure, and where's the food coming from? You think I wouldn't feed everyone 3 meals if I could? Her voice softened. If you're hungry, I'll steam you a piece of pumpkin. Yudi jumped in to help too. I held up my hands. I'm serious. Mom, sister-in-law, fifth sister, trust me. I'm going to make sure this family lives well. I'll figure out the food. Just give me a little time. I wanted so badly to just pull a pile of pumpkins out of thin air right then and there, but I couldn't risk exposing my secret. Instead, I had to let them get used to changes slowly. Mom finally gave in. Fine, we'll do it your way. I grinned and pulled out the 6 bird eggs from yesterday. Great. Cook these 2 while you're at it. You climb trees? What if you'd fallen? Mom scolded me, but I could see the pride underneath. In her simple way of thinking, if I could climb trees to raid nests, I could climb to safety from danger too. Yudi grabbed the eggs and ran to the kitchen. Just then, 2 small kids came running up to our gate, yelling before they even arrived. Brother Six, are you awake yet? Early that morning, 2 little kids came running up yelling for me. Gooden and Erden, my second uncle's boys. One was 10, the other 8. They were a little scared of Mom, but I waved them over and told them to eat with us since they obviously hadn't had breakfast. Gooden tried to play tough. I'm not hungry, Brother Six. Right on cue, his stomach growled loud enough for everyone to hear. Erden burst out laughing, and Gooden raised his fist threatening to hit him, which made Erden cry. I pulled the little one close and calmed them both down. I'll steam you some pumpkin. Don't worry about it. Their eyes lit up, but I could see the hesitation. In these times, even relatives brought their own food when visiting because eating someone else's share meant they'd go hungry. These kids were young, but they already understood that. It broke my heart a little. Mom sighed and went to prepare the food. She didn't love giving away our supplies, but she didn't say no. Soon we had steamed pumpkin and the 6 bird eggs, 1 for each of us. Gooden could barely believe it. Auntie, you're really letting us eat these? I laughed. If you don't want yours, give it to Erden. They told me Grandpa and Grandma had shared some of what I'd sent over. Gooden said it was the best pumpkin he'd ever tasted. I just wish there was more. I wish we could eat like this every day. Erden wiped food off his face and asked if he could come to the mountains with me to catch pheasants and find pumpkins. I told them it was too dangerous. If something happened, how would I explain it to their dad? But really, I couldn't have them tagging along when I needed to secretly pull things out of my space. Instead, I offered to take them fishing at the river. But you have to listen to everything I say. No going in the water without permission. Yes. Brother Six is the best. Mom and the others looked surprised. I would have gone to the river anyway. I needed to check the water situation and try fishing as another food source. The best part about catching fish was that nobody could claim it belonged to the collective. Fish from the river were fair game. I found a piece of hemp rope about 15 feet long, and we headed out after breakfast. On the way, Erden kept chattering. Brother Six, can you really catch fish with this thing? Gooden told him to shut up. Whatever Brother Six says goes. One more word, and we're leaving you behind. When we got near the river, I could see villagers from several nearby villages hauling water. The drought was much worse than I'd imagined. The river was at least 6 feet lower than it should have been. Hey, Yofu, what are you doing here? You never show up for work, but here you are bright and early. That was Li Qingsheng, 4 years older than me, same generation in the clan. We didn't get along. Half of the original Li Youfu's bad reputation as a lazy bum was thanks to this guy spreading gossip. Deep down, he was just jealous that my sisters did all my work while he had to do his own. I shot back. Whether I'm fishing or not is none of your business. He called out to everyone watching. Hey folks, come look. Our village lazybones brought a hemp rope to fish with. Come watch the show. People started laughing. A hemp rope? Does he think the fish are stupid? If he catches anything with that, the sun will rise in the west. I turned around and stared him down. If I catch a fish with this rope today, you strip naked and run a lap around the village. Deal? His face turned the color of liver. And if you can't catch anything, then you name the price. A fish, 2 yuan, whatever you want. His eyes lit up at the money. Someone in the crowd yelled, take the bet. But then Gooden grabbed my sleeve. Brother 6, don't bet with him. Then the little guy puffed up his chest and pointed at Qingsheng. If you keep bullying my brother 6, I'll go beat up both your sons. Qingsheng's eyes went wide. You little brat, you wouldn't dare. Try me. Erden raised his tiny fist too. I'll help beat them up. I nearly fell over laughing. This kid Gooden was a real one. When trouble came, he stepped right up without hesitation. Someone in the crowd taunted Qingsheng. Huh, you're getting threatened by 2 little kids. If I were you, I'd go bang my head against a block of tofu and end it. Qingsheng waved his hand angrily. Forget it, forget it. Who'd bet with a troublemaker like him anyway? He backed down. He was afraid I might not pay up, and even more afraid his 2 boys would actually get beaten. So he shut his mouth and I turned my back on him. Coward, I muttered as Qingsheng backed away from the bet. I found a good spot by the river and set up my fishing rod, a bent sewing needle hooked onto the end of the hemp rope, a stone tied in front for weight, and a stick at the other end as a handle. It looked ridiculous, but that was the point. All I needed was a cover story. Qingsheng came back to mock me. That'll never work. Want me to borrow real fishing gear from Old Wang in the next village? We'll split the catch 50-50. Get lost. Who's splitting anything with you? I ignored him and focused. What nobody could see was that underwater, I was using my mental energy to guide the rope like a little snake, hunting for targets within a couple meters. A few seconds later, a carp swam into range. The hook shot forward and pierced its lip. I yanked it into the spirit space instantly, then slowly pulled the rope up. Just before it broke the surface, I transferred the fish back onto the hook so it looked natural. Qingsheng's face turned white. You actually caught one? The fish was about 2 pounds. His voice dripped with jealousy. I did it twice more, pulling up 2 more decent fish. I skipped the small ones and didn't bother with anything too large. Big fish drained too much mental energy. But secretly, I also sent dozens of fish into my space where they froze in stasis, perfectly preserved. A crowd gathered. People couldn't believe I was catching fish with a hemp rope and a sewing needle. Someone said I was better than Old Wang next door, who spent half a day catching 1 fish the size of a palm. Gooden was bursting with pride, telling everyone to keep their voices down so they wouldn't disturb me. Then the little loudmouth blurted out that I'd also caught wild pheasants yesterday. People's eyes turned red with envy. I quickly downplayed it. Just luck, nothing special. The village chief, Li Daqiang, hushed everyone and turned to me. Yufu, technically what's in the mountains belongs to the collective. Before he could finish, my line went tight. Something massive was pulling. Help! It's huge. The rope stretched straight as a wire. Without my space secretly holding the hook in place, the fish would have broken free instantly. 2 guys ripped off their shirts and dove into the freezing October water. They grabbed it by the gills and hauled it to shore. A grass carp, nearly 30 pounds, almost as long as a man's arm. Everyone went crazy. I've never seen a fish this big. Yofu's really hit it big. I thanked the 2 swimmers and told them to go change before they caught cold. They waved it off like it was nothing. People in this era were tough. Then I turned to the village chief. Uncle Daqiang, everyone helped catch this big one. Let's do it at the village hall for lunch. The whole village can share. He hesitated. A fish this size could feed my family for days, or be salted and saved for the new year. Was I really giving it away? I smiled. I'll keep the 3 smaller ones for home. Without everyone's help, this big one would have gotten away. Let's all have a taste together. He raised his hand and announced it to the crowd. Yufu says the fish is for everyone. Lunch at the village hall, Every person gets a share. Cheers erupted. Over 100 people in the village meant it was really just a taste of fish soup each, but nobody cared. Any hint of meat was a luxury. People thanked me from every direction: cousins, nephews, neighbors. Even Qingxing gave me a thumbs up. "You're something else, brother." I grinned at him. "Everyone can eat. Except you." "What? I'm from this village too. You spent all morning saying I couldn't catch a fish, and you've been spreading bad stories about me behind my back. So tell me why I should share," he squirmed. "I'm sorry, okay? I apologize. That's a pretty weak apology. Shouldn't you at least treat me to a meal in the city?" I don't have any money." He was dying of embarrassment. I laughed. "Fine. Carry the big fish back to the village hall on your own. Then you can eat." His face lit up like I'd given him a gift. He scooped up that 30-pound fish and hugged it to his chest like a treasure, practically running toward the village hall with a trail of little kids chasing behind him. Everyone cracked up watching us. I packed up my gear, especially that sewing needle, might need it again, and called the boys. They threaded straw through the gills of the 3 remaining fish, hung them on a stick, and hoisted it onto their shoulders. "Forward march," they shouted, strutting ahead of me like little soldiers returning from victory. We headed to my grandparents' house first. Gooden and Erden burst through the door yelling, "Grandma, Grandpa, look what Brother Six caught." Grandma's jaw dropped at the 3 big fish. Grandpa came out and stared. Erden puffed up his little chest proudly. We helped too, practically begging to be praised. Grandpa looked at me hard. "When did you learn to fish?" I couldn't hide everything from the people closest to me. So I gave him the same story I'd told Mom. Our ancestor appeared in a dream and taught me skills. Grandpa smoked his pipe for a while, then nodded slowly. "I always knew you had good fortune in you. Now even the ancestors are showing you the way." Then he got serious. "But this stays in the family. Nobody talks about ancestors appearing in dreams outside this house. You understand? They're tearing down old superstitions right now. If the wrong people hear about this, you'll get sent to a labor farm for re-education." Erden's eyes went wide with fear. "Big brother, I don't want to go to a labor farm." Gooden grabbed him. "Then keep your mouth shut." When Grandpa heard I'd given the 30-pound grass fish to the whole village, he couldn't sit still. He grabbed my hand and marched me to the village hall, walking with his chin up and his hands behind his back like the proudest man alive. At the village hall, 2 big iron pots were set up in the yard. The fish had been split in half, and baskets of washed wild greens sat nearby. Women from the village were gathered around, getting everything ready. People started greeting Grandpa, and the village chief Li Daqiang came over grinning. "Your grandson is something else, Uncle Shanzhen. Nobody around here can fish like him." Grandpa waved it off. "The boy just got lucky." Then he dropped his voice a little. "Since everyone's benefiting from my grandson's catch, they should remember his kindness. Because I heard some people were getting jealous about the 2 wild pheasants he caught yesterday." The chief quickly smoothed things over. "Nobody's jealous. I already told everyone. If you want wild game, go catch it yourself. We all know how dangerous the mountains are." Then he pulled Grandpa aside and lowered his voice. "Uncle, let's keep this kind of thing within the village. If the commune officials find out, they'll confiscate everything. Technically, wild animals belong to the collective." Grandpa's eyes bulged. "That's robbery. It's not me saying it. It's the rules." I grabbed his arm. "Grandpa, Uncle Daqiang is right. It does belong to the collective." The chief gave me a thumbs up for being sensible. And honestly, it wasn't that my political awareness was so high. It was just common sense. Everyone in the village was eating the same wild vegetable soup. If they saw me eating meat every day while they starved, of course they'd resent it. We were all poor relatives here. Until I found a proper way to share, I needed to help where I could without drawing too much attention. Grandpa was still grumbling when we got home. Grandma noticed right away. "What happened? Who made you angry?" "Nobody dares make me angry. I'd break their legs." "Sure you would," Grandma said, rolling her eyes. She looked at me. "What's wrong with your grandfather?" I laughed. "Grandpa, don't be mad. I'm not even upset. Once I find a job in the city, I'll buy you a big slab of fatty pork." Erden's eyes went huge. "Brother Six, I want fatty pork too." I grinned at him. "Sure, when you become a grandpa yourself, I'll buy you some. But that's so many years. I don't want to wait that long. I don't want to be a grandpa." That cracked everyone up. They didn't realize I was half serious. I really did plan to find work in the city eventually. I just needed a little more time to build up my food supply first. Grandma patted my hand. I believe in you. My grandson is going to make it to the city and become a real worker someday. In everyone's mind, being a factory worker in the city was the ultimate dream, a real iron rice bowl, a world apart from farming. Just then, my second uncle walked in. What's everyone so happy about? And Yofu, you're here too. My two boys ran out before dawn to find you. Hope they weren't any trouble. My second Aunt Jolihua showed up just then. Her two boys immediately started defending themselves. We didn't cause any trouble. Erden stretched his arms wide, showing her the size of the fish I'd caught. She didn't believe him until Grandpa confirmed the whole story. I told everyone the big fish was no big deal, that I couldn't have landed it without help from the other villagers. Then I said I'd brought 3 smaller fish, 1 for me to take home, and 2 for Grandpa's household to eat. Grandma immediately protested. You can't give us 2 and only keep 1. You caught them all. Grandpa settled it. Take 2 home. Leave us the smallest one. That's your gift to your grandparents, and we appreciate it. Second Aunt's eyes nearly popped when she saw the 3 fish in the bucket. Each one was a couple pounds, way bigger than the small fish she'd been imagining. She grabbed a pair of scissors and got to work cleaning the fish right away. I went into the kitchen and noticed the pumpkin and half a chicken I'd sent over yesterday were barely touched. Grandma, why haven't you eaten these? She smiled sweetly. We did eat some. The pumpkin was delicious. But we're saving the rest. It'll keep a few days in this weather. She cut some pumpkin, steamed it, mashed it up, and mixed it with cornmeal to make little cakes. Second Aunt fried the fish with the tiny bit of oil they had, then added water and stuck the pumpkin cakes around the edge of the pot to cook. I wanted to help, but there were barely any seasonings, not even proper cooking oil, just half a bowl of soybean oil. They shooed me out of the kitchen. My second uncle Li Xingjun showed up too, having heard I was visiting. He was grinning from ear to ear. The whole village is talking about you. You're really something. Grandpa wasn't impressed with his son's freeloading. Yesterday you already mooched off your nephew. Haven't you had enough? Second uncle looked embarrassed. Being a grown man taking advantage of his young nephew's catch wasn't exactly dignified. I smoothed it over. We're family. What's mine is yours. If I ever need help, second uncle, you'll be there, right? Of course. You're my nephew. Who else would I help? Grandpa let it go for now, but I could tell he was planning to give the whole family a lecture later. When the food was ready, it smelled incredible. Golden pumpkin cakes, a big pot of fish soup with wild greens. Everyone got 1 cake and a bowl of soup. Then Grandma set a special bowl in front of me. The other half of yesterday's chicken, a huge drumstick with several pieces of meat, swimming in broth. She'd save it all for me. Grandma, you and Grandpa should share this. This was set aside just for you. Eat it before it gets cold. I couldn't have that. If you two don't eat some, I'll go home and never visit again. I split the meat into their bowls. They finally gave in. Gooden and Erden stared at the chicken with hungry eyes, but Grandpa ignored them. Instead, he used the moment to deliver a speech. Everything on this table came from Yofu. Remember his kindness. I'm putting this out there right now. If anyone in this family ever turns ungrateful, I won't stand for it. Second uncle and second aunt both swore they'd never forget. Grandpa was sharp. He was teaching me something too. Be generous, but make sure people remember who the generosity came from. Kindness given in small amounts earns loyalty. Too much given freely breeds entitlement. It was a good lesson. After the meal, Grandma packed up the leftover pumpkin cakes for me to take home. Second uncle tried to grab a second one, but Grandma slapped his hand away. 1 per person, the rest were for me. Before I left, I casually asked Grandpa, do you know where I could get some seed grain? What do you want seeds for? The production team controls all of that. You'd have to ask your village chief, and he can't just hand them out. Every seed is accounted for. Just curious, I said, keeping it light. I've been so lazy my whole life. I've never even been to the fields. I don't even know what seed grain looks like. Pretty embarrassing for a country boy. Second uncle perked up. That's easy to fix. Come work in the fields with me. I'll teach you everything from scratch. Thanks but no thanks. What I really wanted was to get my hands on a few different types of seeds for my Spirit Spring space. But I couldn't exactly explain that. No need, second uncle. I just wanted to see what they look like. I'm not actually planning to farm. He relaxed. That sounded more like the Li Yofu everyone knew. While I was at my grandparents' house, Something was happening on the other side of the mountain that I didn't know about. Wang Shui and her mother were out digging wild vegetables at the foot of the hills. They'd been at it all morning, but barely filled a third of their baskets. Wild greens were getting harder and harder to find. Every tiny sprout got ripped out of the ground before it could even grow. A woman named Ma Fong, who'd married into our Li family village from Wang family village, ran into them. She looked Wang Shui up and down and said, "So this is the girl? Pretty face, sure. Too bad she comes from a family with black hearts. No wonder she lost such a good man." Chen Xiuying exploded, threatening to rip her mouth apart. But Ma Fong didn't back down one bit. "Everyone in every village knows what you did. You want 100 yuan for your daughter, but only offer 10 when your sons need wives? And you have the nerve to call Li Youfu lazy?" Then Ma Fong delivered the killing blow. "Lucky for Youfu, he dodged your family. Oh, and I almost forgot. He just caught a 30-pound fish and gave it to the whole village for lunch. Some people are just born without that kind of luck." She walked away grinning. Chen Xiuying and Wang Shui stood there like they'd been struck by lightning. Chen Xiuying was furious. 30 pounds of fish could feed her family for days, and if Wang Shui had married me, all of that would have been theirs. Wang Shui felt even worse. She knew about the 2 pheasants from yesterday. Meanwhile, she hadn't eaten in a full day and was crawling around digging for weeds. She wanted to cry. The other village women looked at them with a mix of pity and mockery. They'd had the winning hand and played it terribly. Like Ma Fong said, some people just don't have the luck. I had no idea any of this was happening. I didn't know the village women were defending my honor. People in this era were really something. I said goodbye to my grandparents and headed home with 2 fish and some golden pumpkin cakes Grandma had packed for me. The warmth of having a real family kept me smiling the whole way. I'd also gotten useful information about seeds. The good news: the village chief, Uncle Daqiang, controlled the production team's seed supply. The bad news: every seed was tracked and counted, so I couldn't just ask for some. I'd have to figure out a way. I was tired of just pumpkins. Eat too much and you get gassy and overheated. What I really wanted was rice, wheat, and different vegetables and fruits. When I got home, everyone was there. Yudi's eyes lit up at the fish. Mom had brought me a big bowl from the village canteen, wild greens with a few pieces of fish from the big catch I'd donated. The whole village had been praising me, and Mom had taken full advantage, scooping up extra for her son. Nobody had complained. I laughed and handed over the pumpkin cakes and told them I'd already eaten at Grandpa's. I kept 1 fish for the grandparents and brought 2 home. My sister-in-law suggested saving the fish for another day. I said no way. Everyone in this house was skin and bones. We needed the nutrition now. Eat them today. When they're gone, I'll catch more. Mom backed me up immediately. We eat fish this afternoon. That's final. I picked up little Dia, kissed her chubby cheek, and promised her fish soup for the afternoon. She giggled and babbled her little sounds. Mom eventually shooed me to bed. I was truly exhausted. Once I was alone in my room, I slipped into the spirit spring space just long enough to water the pumpkin seedlings, then fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night. It was pitch black outside. Nobody had woken me for dinner. They'd seen how deeply I was sleeping and didn't have the heart to disturb me. I didn't even have a watch to check the time. I slipped into the spirit spring space. The acre of pumpkin seeds I'd planted was already covered in green vines. 2 or 3 more days, and I'd have a harvest, at least 10,000 pounds of pumpkin. Between the magical black soil and the spirit water, the growth was incredible. I also noticed I was getting stronger again, and my mental energy had increased too. At this rate, I'd turn into some kind of superhuman. I gulped down several mouthfuls of spirit water. Great stuff. Except it made me ravenously hungry every single time. I rushed to the kitchen to find food. "Who's there?" My sister-in-law had beaten me to it. She'd been waiting up, worried I'd wake up hungry. She started a fire and warmed up the bowl Mom had saved from the village canteen, plus the pumpkin cakes nobody had touched. They'd saved every last one for me. I handed her a cake and half my fish soup. She tried to refuse, but I told her she'd need energy for the work I was about to give her. That convinced her. She ate. For pumpkin cakes and a bowl of soup later, I felt human again. Note to self: always have food ready before drinking spirit water. "What work do you need me to do?" she asked. "Stew both fish." "Both of them?" "Both." Then I pulled out some more pheasant eggs. I'd been keeping them in my space. Her jaw dropped. I told her to boil them. one for everyone in the family. She tried to refuse hers, but I shut that down fast. You provide the labor, I provide the ingredients. Fair deal. By the time the fish soup was ready, everyone was awake. I ate 2 eggs and 2 bowls of soup. Gooden and Erden showed up early again, clearly hoping for another adventure. I told them to help themselves to the leftover soup, after a quick glance at Mom's face to make sure it was okay. I grabbed my shovel and headed for the mountains. Mom and Yudi told me to be careful and stay out of the deep forest. The boys begged to come along, but I refused. I couldn't pull things out of my secret space with them watching. Along the way, I passed village women and children heading to the hillside to dig wild vegetables. Without those greens supplementing the canteen food, people would be starving to death. About an hour later, I reached the trap I'd dug 2 days ago. From a distance, I could hear it, heavy grunting and snorting. My heart jumped. I'd actually caught something. I crept closer and looked down into the pit. A wild boar, black bristly hair, 2 sharp tusks poking out from its mouth. Not the biggest, maybe 150 pounds, but it had fallen in hard. There was dried blood on its body from the sharpened stakes at the bottom. When it sensed me, it went crazy, thrashing and snorting louder. I grinned, touched it with my shovel, and, whoosh, sucked it straight into the spirit spring space. Inside the space, it froze completely still, just like the fish and the birds before it. Motionless. Silent. Not so tough now, are you? I said. No response, obviously. I wasn't going to let it out of the space until it was dead, though. Out in the wild, a boar is king. But in my space, it was completely at my mercy. I was thrilled about catching the boar. I fixed up the trap, threw in half a pumpkin as fresh bait, then dug 3 more pits nearby. After all that digging, I was exhausted and thirsty. I drank some spirit water, built a fire, and cooked up a quick lunch from the fish and pumpkin I had stored in my space. No seasoning, not even salt. I made a mental note to start keeping supplies in there. After eating, I kept exploring. I caught 5 more pheasants, 30 pheasant eggs, and 2 wild rabbits. Not bad, but then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. 20-something wild boars were staring right at me. The 2 biggest ones had to be over 300 pounds each. A dozen more were around 150, plus a few piglets. Before I could even think, the leader charged. When it was less than 30 feet away, I vanished into my space. The boar tore through where I'd been standing and slammed headfirst into a tree with a sickening thud. From inside my space, I could see everything happening outside. The boar squealed in pain, probably confused about where its target had disappeared to. Once my panic faded, I slapped my forehead. I had a weapon here. I could use the trees as a medium to pull them into the space. I reappeared, climbed the thickest tree I could find, and started taunting them. Come on. You think I'm scared? The leader's eyes went red. It charged and rammed the tree. The instant it made contact, I pulled it into the space. Gone. The next few boars couldn't stop in time and hit the same tree. I grabbed them too. The remaining boars circled below, howling. I tossed pumpkin chunks down to lure them closer to the tree, but they were smart enough to eat the pumpkin without touching the trunk. I couldn't pull them in without that physical connection, and I wasn't crazy enough to jump down. Eventually, they got spooked and retreated into the forest. I waited a while before climbing down. What a haul. 5 pheasants, 2 rabbits, 30 eggs, and 8 wild boars, the biggest one over 300 pounds. I was already scheming about how to turn the pork into my first real fortune. I couldn't sell it. That was illegal speculation, but I could trade it. In a time when everyone was starving, meat was king. Before leaving the deep forest, I ducked into my space to deal with the boars. They were all frozen still. I picked one that was about 200 pounds, grabbed my shovel, and brought it down on the boar's skull. Once, twice, 3 times, until half its head was caved in. Even then, I tossed it out of the space and back in a few times just to make sure it was dead. Call me paranoid, but I wasn't taking chances. I left the other 7 frozen in the space for later and started dragging the dead one down the mountain. Near the base, someone spotted me. Yufu, what are you dragging? It was Dadong, one of the guys who jumped in the river to help me catch the big fish yesterday. When he saw the boar, his eyes nearly fell out of his head. Go get help, I told him. Get my second uncle and the village chief. I can't pull this thing any further. He took off running. I sat down and waited. Within minutes, half the village was there. The chief, my second uncle, random relatives, and even my grandpa, who had no business running at his age. Are you hurt? Everyone kept asking. I'm fine, I promise. The chief shook his head. Kid, what would we have done if something happened to you? Grandpa pushed through the crowd to check me over himself. Let me see you. Are you really okay? More and more people gathered around, and when they saw the massive boar behind me, every single one of them covered their mouths in shock. Grandpa pulled me aside and checked me over head to toe. Only after confirming I was unhurt did he finally relax. Everyone wanted to know how I'd done it. I told them the truth, mostly. I dug a trap a couple days ago and came back to check it. The boar fell right in. That made sense to everyone. No one questioned it. The village chief praised me in front of the crowd. Grandpa pretended to be humble. Stop flattering him or his head will swell, but the proud grin on his face gave him away completely. Then came the big question. The chief looked at me. So what do you want to do with the pig? Every pair of eyes locked onto me, full of desperate hunger. I'd already thought this through. Keeping it all for myself would be stupid, not just selfish, but dangerous. In a few years, people who stood out as too wealthy or too greedy would be dragged out and punished during the political campaigns. I wasn't going to paint a target on my back. If I wanted to keep this pig for myself, I wouldn't have let anyone know, I said. But I risked my life getting it down from the mountain. So I'll take 1/10. The rest goes to the village. Uncle Daqiang can distribute it however he sees fit. The chief cleared his throat and addressed the crowd. Yofu risked his life for this. 1/10 is more than fair. Anyone disagree? Agreed, came from every direction. He started barking orders. Young men to carry the boar to the village hall, women to go boil water, and he'd fetch the butcher. Every person in the family village would get a share. The crowd exploded with joy. Strong men hoisted the boar and marched toward the village hall. Kids bounced along behind them chanting, "We're eating meat." Women hurried home to start fires, laughing and chattering. Soon it was just me, Grandpa, second uncle, and the chief. The chief bowed to me. Yofu, I'm thanking you on behalf of the whole village. I quickly held him up. Uncle Daqiang, please don't do that. As we walked back together, Grandpa glared at second uncle. What good is having a son? He's not worth one of my grandson's toes. Second uncle just stood there speechless. He wished he'd stayed home. Then the chief's tone turned serious. Uncle Shanjin, I'll be honest. Next year is going to be even harder. Grandpa's eyes sharpened. You mean the harvest? The chief nodded heavily. He glanced north and said quietly, I've heard people are already heading that way. Then the conversation stopped dead, like they'd touched something forbidden. I understood what they meant. From my knowledge of history, this famine wouldn't end until late 1961. Another full year. Food and supplies would only get tighter. Grandpa sighed and looked at me. You're a good boy. I just worry about your mother's reaction to you giving away so much. I smiled. Don't worry, Grandpa. I know how to handle Mom. And I did. As long as I was firm enough, she'd agree, even if she had to swallow her frustration. Then I made my move, as casually as I could. Uncle Daqiang, you manage the seed supply, right? Could I take a look at what seed grain looks like? Maybe just a few seeds of each type. Literally just a handful, he frowned. What do you want seeds for? Every seed is counted. I gave him the same excuse I'd used on Grandpa. I'd been so lazy my whole life that I didn't even recognize basic crops. It was embarrassing. I just wanted to see what they looked like so I wouldn't be laughed at when I eventually started farming. He was skeptical. That's really all. I raised my hand and swore. I promise. Just 8 or 10 of each kind. That's it. His expression softened. A few seeds couldn't do any harm. Fine. Let's deal with the pork first. Then you can come pick them up. I'll come get them myself, I said quickly. I wasn't going to let this slip away. He headed off to find the butcher, and I made my way to the village hall. The whole village was already gathered there, grinning like it was New Year's Day. Kids stared at the boar with drool running down their chins. Mothers promised their little ones they'd fry the meat as soon as they got their share. Old folks who hadn't tasted pork in months were practically shaking with excitement. The whole village was celebrating. But back at my house, things were apparently a different story entirely. When I got home, Mom was already crying. She'd heard the news and was furious that I'd given away the boar. You risked your life for that pig, and they contributed nothing. Why should they get our meat? My sister-in-law tried to defend me, but Mom shut her down instantly. From their perspective, everyone was struggling. Why should we sacrifice for others? I'd oversimplified things. Rationally, I was right. Emotionally, I was ripping Mom's heart out. But I had to think long-term. If our family ate meat every day while everyone else starved, we'd become targets. And in a few years, during the political storms, people who stood out got destroyed. A good reputation now could save our lives later. Mom, do you trust me or not? Everyone went quiet. The ancestors gave me skills, so our family won't go hungry. But if we eat meat every day, how do we explain where it comes from? Everything in the mountains belongs to the collective. If someone reports me, I could go to prison for stealing state property. Mom grabbed my arm in panic. That's serious? But if I share with the village, nobody can say anything against us. They'll only remember our kindness. And now that everyone knows I can hunt, they'll just assume we're eating our share slowly. They won't get jealous. I leaned in closer. Besides, who says I only caught one boar and not 3 or 4 or 5? Mom, Yudi, and my sister-in-law all stared at me with wide eyes. Keep that between us, I said with a grin. And I'm planning to send some to my older sisters too. Just then, Dadon came running over. The butcher had finished. The boar weighed 218 pounds cleaned. Everyone was waiting for me at the village hall. As the one who'd caught it, I had to be there before they could start dividing. Mom refused to come. She said watching other people take her son's meat would hurt too much. I told her to wait at home. At the village hall, everyone thanked me the moment I walked in. One after another, young, old, men, women. I even had a middle-aged man who was over a decade older than me call me Grandpa because of our family ranking. That was bizarre. The chief pulled me to the center and addressed the crowd. He confirmed the split. I got 10%, 21.8 pounds. The remaining 196 pounds would be divided among the village's 321 people. Every person got half a pound. Seniors over 60 and military families got an extra half pound. Whatever was left went to the village canteen. Nobody objected. They'd been drooling too long to argue. Yofu picks first, the chief said. I asked how much leaf lard there was. About 5 or 6 pounds. I took all of it. Rendered pork fat was liquid gold for cooking. Then I asked for the spare ribs. The chief looked uncomfortable. Wouldn't you rather take belly pork? Ribs don't have much fat on them. He had no idea. Back in my time, ribs cost more than belly. Braised ribs, sweet and sour ribs. I could think of a dozen dishes. But in this era, people only cared about fat. The leaner the meat, the less they wanted it. The ribs came to about 14 pounds. Still short of my share, so I asked for some lean meat and the organ meats, intestines, liver, the whole set. The chief was almost apologetic. He threw in the entire set of organs plus an extra 2 or 3 pounds of lean meat. Take it all. Everyone else looked relieved, like they'd gotten the better deal. In their minds, I'd chosen the garbage nobody wanted. I nearly laughed. In the future, both ribs and intestines sold for more than pork belly. Nobody here had any idea who was really winning. The whole haul came to about 60 pounds, way more than my official 21.8. I turned down help carrying it. With the spirit water strengthening me, 60 pounds felt like nothing. As I walked up to our gate, someone called out to Mom. Jiang Tsuehua, you have a package. From the military district. Go pick it up at the post office. Mom took the slip just as I arrived with the heavy sack over my shoulder. Mom, I'm back. Who sent a letter? Your third sister mailed a package. Go pick it up at the post office when you have time. Third sisterly lady was the best off among all my siblings, not because of her own job, but because she'd married well. Her husband was a deputy battalion commander earning 89 yuan a month, which put them above 99% of the country. She was a housewife, but every few months she'd send a care package home. The mailman who delivered the notice was named Jiang Feng, 25 years old, wearing a sharp uniform and riding a Forever brand bicycle. Being a postal carrier was one of the 8 great positions, an iron rice bowl that made you a top catch for marriage. But even Jiang Feng was struggling. He earned 37.5 yuan a month, which used to be plenty for a single man. But since the food shortages started, money didn't matter much. His meat ration had been cut from 6 ounces a month to 2. The moment he spotted my blood-soaked burlap sack, his eyes locked on and didn't let go. Mom exchanged pleasantries and headed inside. I stayed behind. I'd noticed his expression. Brother Jiang, something on your mind? He was embarrassed but couldn't help himself. Is that meat in the bag? Yes, he sucked in a breath. A full sack of meat. He could barely process it. Could I buy some from you? Brother Jiang, we can't say buy. That's speculation, and it'll get us both in trouble. The word you want is trade, right? Right, trade. My mistake. I could tell he respected me more after that. I opened the sack and explained honestly. It was mostly organ meats and ribs, not the fatty belly pork everyone craved. The rest had gone to the village. But I also dropped a hint. I was a hunter. I could get meat regularly. His eyes lit up. A hunter meant a steady supply. Do you like fish? I asked. Anything with meat. I'm not picky. I'll bring you a couple fish tomorrow when I come to pick up my sister's package. He nodded eagerly, already calculating what he could offer in trade. This was exactly the kind of connection I needed, someone in town with access to things I couldn't get in the village. When I finally went inside, Yudi asked what took so long. I teased her. I was trying to find you a husband. Her face turned bright red. Mom, look what he's saying. Mom took my side, of course. At your age, I already had your oldest sister. That young mailman has a good job and good looks. He probably wouldn't even look at a country girl like you. Yudi ran inside, embarrassed and hurt. I felt a little guilty. Mom, I was just joking. I was actually asking Brother Jiang about job opportunities in town. Jobs? You want to be a mailman? Both Mom and my sister-in-law looked at me like I was dreaming. City jobs were impossible to get. Every position was taken. But they didn't know what I knew. Give me time, and I'd figure it out. I picked up Daya to lighten the mood. The little girl babbled and giggled as I tickled her. I decided right then, when I had kids someday, I wanted daughters. Boys were overrated. Then I said to Mom, don't talk to fifth sister like that again. Just give me some time. I'll get her one of those 8 great jobs, and nobody will ever call her a country girl again. Mom ignored me and went straight to the sack. She opened it, expecting beautiful slabs of fatty pork belly. Instead, she found pig intestines, liver, kidneys, and ribs. What is this? She looked like she might faint. You gave away the good meat and brought home this? This isn't food. My sister-in-law came running over and stared into the bag with the same horrified expression. I set Daya down calmly. What's wrong with ribs and organs? And look, there's 5 or 6 pounds of leaf lard in there too. That's pure cooking fat. Before I could explain further, I heard the village chief's voice outside. Yofu you home, my heart jumped. He was here with the seeds. The village chief walked in right as Mom was crying. He looked alarmed. What happened? Mom turned on him immediately. You have the nerve to ask. My son caught that boar, and you gave him nothing but garbage nobody wants. The chief looked at me desperately for help. I stepped in. Mom, it's not his fault. I chose the organs and ribs myself. You chose them? Mom looked like the world was ending. Why would you choose parts nobody eats? Are you trying to kill me? I grabbed the chief's arm and pulled him outside before things got worse. He couldn't get away fast enough. He shoved a newspaper-wrapped package into my hands, the seeds, and practically ran home. The seeds. Finally, back inside, Mom was still fuming. I sat her down and explained my thinking piece by piece. If I'd taken 20 pounds of belly pork, that's most of the good cuts on the whole pig. Everyone would have smiled to my face, but hated us behind our backs. Instead, I took stuff nobody wanted and ended up with 60 pounds instead of 21. Who really got the better deal? But the smell. Nobody can eat that stuff. I smiled. Mom, the ancestors didn't just teach me to hunt. They taught me to cook too. She muttered something about ancestors teaching cooking, but she stopped arguing. And I wasn't lying. I really did know how to handle organ meats. Pig intestines cleaned with a little flour lose all their grease and smell. Scallion ginger water and cooking wine take care of the rest. Then you braise everything in a spiced liquid, star anise, cinnamon, bay leaves, cardamom. In my old life, braised pig intestines and organs were street food sold everywhere. The spices could all be bought at traditional medicine shops. We rendered the leaf lard first. Mom handled that perfectly. Meanwhile, my sister-in-law, Yudi, and I scrubbed the organs over and over. When I used cornmeal to clean the intestines, Mom nearly lost her mind again. People don't have enough cornmeal to eat, and you're using it to wash pig guts? While all this was happening across the village, something else was going on that I didn't know about. Ma Fong, the woman from our village who defended me to Wang Shui's mother, took her half-pound of pork back to Wang family village to show off. She strolled in with the meat held high, telling everyone who'd listen about the 200-pound boar I'd caught and how every person in the family village got half a pound of meat. If Wang Shui's family hadn't been so greedy, she announced loudly, That girl would be enjoying pork right now. But some people just aren't meant for good things. Wang Chong, Wang Shui's second brother, happened to be standing right there. His face went purple with rage, but what could he say? Everyone was already laughing at his family. He stormed home. Wang Shui greeted him sweetly at the door. Second brother, dinner's ready. On the table sat a steaming bowl of wild vegetable soup, a few floating leaves, thin as water. He snapped. All you do is eat. When are you going to make Li Youfu change his mind? Then he told the whole family what he'd heard. I caught a wild boar. Over 200 pounds. Given meat to every single person in Li family village. Chun Xiuying froze. Wang Jun froze. Wang Lei froze. Even Wang Shui stood there like she'd been turned to stone. Back at the Wang house, Chun Xiuying was losing her mind. 200 pounds of meat, and he doesn't send us any? What does he think he's doing? She ordered Wang Shui to go to my house right now and demand half a side of pork. Wang Shui protested. I was still angry and wouldn't even talk to her. But her mother didn't care. Then the brothers started scheming. Wang Chong suggested forgetting about the bride price entirely. Li Youfu can hunt. If Wang Shui marries him, we'll never run out of meat. Wang Jun panicked. Without bride money, how would he afford his own wife? But Wang Lei had an idea. Skip the cash, and instead demand that I give the Wang family half of everything I hunted. Forever. Chun Xiuying's eyes gleamed. Tell Li Youfu we don't want a single cent of bride price. But every time he catches something, half goes to us. Wang Shui's face lit up. No bride price. I'd definitely agree to that. And sharing half the meat with her family? That was just being a good wife. If I'd known what these people were planning, I would have told them to take a long look in the mirror. That evening, every house in Li family village was filled with the smell of cooking pork. Each household had gotten 2 to 5 pounds depending on family size. Mom rendered the leaf lard into a full enamel jar of cooking oil, with plenty of crackling left over for snacks and stir-fry. She sliced some lean meat and fried up a proper dish. It was the kind of meal we'd normally only eat during New Year. The only disappointment was the cornmeal buns. Every bite scratched my throat going down. I could barely manage two. I needed rice and wheat flour. Fast. After dinner, I went to my room and unwrapped the newspaper package from the village chief. My heart nearly exploded with joy. Over a dozen different types of seeds. I could recognize corn, wheat, rice, peanuts, and soybeans among them. This was everything I needed. I entered the Spirit Spring space immediately, seeds in hand. The first acre of pumpkins was nearly ripe, every one the size of a baby's head. 2 or 3 more days at most. I moved to the second acre of black soil and carefully divided it into sections, planting each type of seed in its own area. Then I watered everything with spirit water and started pushing my mental energy to accelerate the growth. By the time my mental power was nearly drained, the new crops had reached harvest stage. I collapsed onto my bed and fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. When I woke the next morning, I felt incredible. My mental energy had grown noticeably again. It always came back stronger after being fully depleted. I checked the space using just my consciousness, watching through a screen of light without physically entering. The acre of pumpkins was fully mature, every single one over 20 pounds. The total harvest came to over 10,000 pounds. Nearly 600 pumpkins, piled up like a small mountain in the time-frozen storage area. Then I looked at the crops I'd forced to maturity last night. The wheat stalks stood nearly as tall as a man, each head packed with over 80 plump grains. That meant at least 50% higher yield than normal farming. I collected all the seeds and started a new planting cycle, this time just watering without using mental energy, then left the space. I had a busy day ahead. I'd promised Jiang Feng 2 fish, and I needed to pick up third sister's package from the post office. I also planned to stop at a traditional medicine shop to buy the spices I needed for braising the organ meats. At breakfast, oil-crackling soup with wild greens and a boiled egg each. Mom pulled me aside and pressed 2 yuan and a 1-pound grain ration ticket into my hand. Buy yourself some buns in town. She always gave me a little pocket money when I went to the post office. I thanked her and promised to bring back treats. I squeezed little Daya's cheek. Be good. Uncle Six will bring you white rabbit candy. She babbled happily, not knowing what candy was, but knowing I was someone who loved her. I walked out with a bamboo basket on my back. Once I was sure nobody was watching, I made it vanish into my space. Why carry the thing for miles when I had a pocket dimension? Just outside the village, I ran into Li Guanqi, a nephew of sorts who was technically younger than me in family ranking despite being over a decade older. He was hauling 2 big barrels of human waste on an ox cart. Turns out, you even needed ration tickets for manure these days. The village chief had pulled favors just to get a few. Chemical fertilizer existed, but never made it to small villages like ours. I couldn't believe it. Tickets for poop. This era never stopped surprising me. He offered me a ride, but one look at the brown stains on the cart, and I politely declined. I'd rather walk. An hour later, I reached the town post office with 2 live carp I'd pulled from my space just before arriving. Brother 6, Jiang Feng, spotted the fish immediately and grabbed my arm, dragging me through back alleys to his place. A small flat, maybe 500 square feet, with basic furniture and a radio on the windowsill. You can't just walk around carrying fish in the open, he said. If anyone else sees them, they'll want to trade too, and I'll lose out. He borrowed a scale and weighed them. For pounds, 6 ounces total. Then he laid out his offer. The government buying station paid 45 cents per pound for fish over 2 pounds. He'd pay me 80 cents per pound, almost double. That's too much, Brother Jiang. He shook his head. It's not. Live fish like these go for a yuan per pound on the black market. A yuan per pound? I was shocked. He explained that food prices on the black market had skyrocketed. Grain was nearly 10 times the official price. Everyone was desperate. He handed me 3 yuan 70 cents. I tried to give some back, but he insisted. He wanted me to keep bringing fish regularly. He had friends who'd want some too. A few customers splitting the cost each month made it manageable on their salaries. This was a goldmine. A reliable connection in town who could also introduce me to other buyers. When we parted, I mentioned wanting to buy candy for my niece, but having no candy ration tickets. He offered to ask his friends, but I told him I was curious about the black market in the county seat instead. The town doesn't have one, he said. Only the county. Just be careful, and you'll be fine. Things are so hard right now, they mostly look the other way. I asked for directions and told him I'd pick up the package that afternoon. It took me another hour to walk to the county seat. It was bigger than the town, still mostly low buildings, but more bustling. I found a state-run restaurant and went in. The menu was on a chalkboard. Meat buns, 5 cents each plus 1 ounce of grain ration per bun. I ordered 10. Mom's 1-pound grain ticket covered it exactly. I wolfed down 4 and had the waitress wrap the rest in wax paper for my family. She gave me a dirty look for the trouble. That was how service worked in state restaurants. The customer was never right. If you complained, they could throw you out or worse. Outside, I ducked into an empty alley and stashed the buns in my space. Then I pulled out a change of clothes and a bamboo basket. I wrapped a cloth around my face, leaving only my eyes visible. Time to visit the black market. The black market turned out to be nothing fancy, just a rough, hidden trading spot behind some old walls. Everything you couldn't get through official channels ended up here. Even people with proper jobs and cadre suits came to buy and sell. The government mostly looked the other way because everyone was struggling. I paid 2 cents at the entrance and slipped inside with my bamboo basket. It was packed with people, but eerily quiet. Everyone whispered. I spotted stalls selling iron pots, stoves, watches, porcelain, and just about everything else. Almost every buying sign was the same, looking for grain. I found a ticket seller who called himself Wang Matzi. Short guy with shifty eyes, wearing a cotton jacket he'd modified with pockets everywhere like a military vest. What tickets you got? I asked. Whatever you need. TV tickets? The old man selling watches next to him burst out laughing. Wang Matzi glared at me, but then actually quoted a price. 550 yuan for a TV ticket, 50 deposit, 7 days to deliver. Whether he was bluffing or actually had connections, I couldn't tell. Either way, I wasn't buying. A television in this era would be like setting off fireworks. Way too much attention. I asked about meat tickets. 1 yuan per pound. Outrageous when the actual meat only cost 75 cents. But Wang Matzi explained. With only 2 ounces of meat ration per person per month, the ticket itself was worth more than the meat. And even with a ticket, you couldn't buy meat because the supply was already claimed by people with connections. Then he dropped the grain prices. Rice and white flour that officially cost about 14 cents a pound were going for 2 yuan 70 on the black market. Even cornmeal was 1 yuan 60, nearly 20 times the official price. My mind started racing. I had over 10,000 pounds of pumpkins sitting in my space. At even 50 cents a pound, that was 5 or 6,000 yuan. In this era, that kind of money could buy a traditional courtyard house in Beijing, worth over 100 million in the future. I bought all his cigarette tickets, 11 premium, 14 standard, for 3 yuan 60. I'd been a pack-and-a-half-a-day smoker in my old life, and had been going through withdrawal for days. Then all his liquor tickets, 7 premium ones that could buy Matai, 11 mid-tier for brands like Wuliangye, at a total of 12 yuan 50. Added to the cigarette tickets, the bill came to 16 yuan 10 cents. I don't have cash, I said. Can I trade pumpkins? Wang Mozi's eyes nearly popped out. Pumpkins? I lifted the cloth off my basket. 2 massive pumpkins, 25 pounds each. The old watch seller next door practically leaped over. Me next. Me next. Wang Mozi shoved him back. He came to me first. He pulled me around the corner and suddenly became my best friend. Brother, forgive me. I didn't realize what I was dealing with. Please, let's do business. We settled on 50 cents per pound for the pumpkins. 2 pumpkins covered most of the tickets, plus I cleaned him out of other useful coupons, salt tickets, candy tickets, pastry tickets, soap tickets, cloth tickets. The remaining difference he paid me 2 yuan 20 in cash. Then the watch seller rushed over. My turn. I'll trade a watch for pumpkins. 3 of those big ones, or 24 pounds of cornmeal. I did the math quickly. 24 pounds of cornmeal at black market prices was about 38 yuan. 3 pumpkins at my price was about 37.50. Close enough. The watch was about 80% new. Easily worth 50 yuan if he wasn't desperate. Deal, I said. But my pumpkins are stashed in the woods outside. Come with me, see them first, then hand over the watch. I obviously couldn't pull pumpkins out of thin air in front of people. I'd need to step away and stage the handoff carefully. The watch seller agreed to the deal. Wang Mozi came back with burlap sacks, and we traded. Tickets for pumpkins, smooth and simple. When he asked if I had more pumpkins, I told him no, just the last 3 were for the old man. Wang Mozi looked like he wanted to cry. He gave me his pitch. I'm here every day. Whatever tickets you need, come find me. Just ask for Wang Mozi. I told him to save me a bicycle ticket for next time. He whipped one out right there, 115 yuan. That was only about 9 pumpkins. I was tempted, but I'd already said I was out, so I held off. Do you buy wild boar meat? I asked casually. His eyes went wide. You have boar meat? Anything edible, I'll take. I promise you a fair deal. I nodded and left with the watch seller. What I didn't know was that the moment I walked out, Wang Mozi went straight to the black market boss, some guy called Brother Gang, and told him everything about me. Brother Gang examined the pumpkins and asked if I had more. Wang Mozi said he didn't think so, but mentioned I'd be back with wild boar. Brother Gang waved off the boar as uninteresting, but told Wang Mozi to notify him if more pumpkins showed up. I'd underestimated how obsessed people were with food. If I kept trading pumpkins, someone would start tracking me. I made a mental note. Never again. From now on, everything I sold had to have a believable source. Pumpkins appearing from nowhere was suspicious. Wild game at least made sense. I was a known hunter. The trade with the watch seller went smoothly. I led him to a patch of woods, ducked out of sight, pulled 3 pumpkins from my space, and handed them over. He gave me the watch. We both walked away happy. He thought 75 pounds of pumpkin beat 24 pounds of cornmeal. I thought pumpkins were basically unlimited for me. After making sure nobody was following me, I found a traditional medicine shop and bought all the braising spices, star anise, cardamom, cinnamon bark, bay leaves, and the rest. 60 cents total, enough for 3 batches of braised meat. Then I hit the county supply co-op. It was a state-run general store with a dozen counters selling everything. A big sign on the wall read, "Staff must not beat customers without reason." That told you everything about the service quality. I bought 2 packs of Dakiaman cigarettes, a box of matches, and then spotted something wonderful, white rabbit candy. The best soft candy in the country, made in Shanghai. They said 7 pieces equaled a glass of milk. I bought a full pound at 2 yuan 50, plus half a pound of rock sugar, 2 bars of soap, a bag of fine salt, and a bottle of fin liquor. Total, 6 yuan 57. I was down to 21 cents and a few leftover tickets. Not much cash, but I'd found my path to making money. This trip had been a complete success. I practically jogged back to the town post office. Where have you been? I thought you'd be back hours ago. Jiang Feng laughed. I gave him 2 white rabbit candies. His eyes went round. These are expensive. He processed my package quickly and reminded me about the fish. Don't forget about me, brother 6. I won't. I walked out with the bamboo basket on my back. The package from third sister plus my purchases weighed over 15 pounds, but it felt like nothing now. I lit a Dakiamin cigarette and strolled home, smoking for the first time since crossing over. The feeling was heavenly. I'd been dying for a smoke for days. When I got home, Gooden and Erden were sitting in the yard waiting for me. Mom said they'd been there since hearing I'd gone to town. Sit still, I told them. Brother 6 has candy for you. I gave each of them 2 white rabbit candies. They popped them in their mouths, and their eyes went electric. It's sweet. So sweet. So good. I peeled one open and popped it into Mom's mouth too. How is it? Sweet, she admitted, then immediately scolded me. Always spending money. When will you learn to save? Then she looked through the basket. The spices, the liquor, the soap, the fine salt, the cigarettes, the rock sugar, and third sister's unopened package. Her expression turned strange. Yufu, come inside. We need to talk about where all this came from. What do you mean, what's going on? I played dumb. Don't act innocent. I gave you 2 yuan and 1 pound of grain tickets. You come back with candy, liquor, soap, spices. Where did the money come from? Where did the tickets come from? I traded for them. Traded what? I told her about selling fish to Jiang Feng. 80 cents per pound, almost double the government buying station's price. 2 fish, for pounds 6 ounces, 3 yuan 70 cents total. Mom's face went through several stages of grief. She started mentally adding up every fish we'd eaten over the past 2 days. At the buying station's price, we'd swallowed about 4 yuan worth of fish. Her expression looked like she was having a medical emergency. From now on, every fish you catch goes to selling. No more eating fish in this house. That's not fish, that's gold. I showed her my empty pockets. It's all gone. I spent everything. I've got 21 cents left. You wasteful little. She raised her hand, but couldn't bring herself to hit me. She just stood there fuming. I put my arm around her shoulders. Mom, money is for spending. I told you, our life is only going to get better. You can't keep thinking so small. She pinched my side. Small? Everything I do is for you. But eventually she sighed and let it go. Handle your own business. Just promise me. Nothing illegal, not even if I had 10 times the courage. Then I pulled out the meat buns from my space. They were still warm. Time freezes inside, so they were exactly as hot as when I'd bought them. I gave the boys half a bun each. Gooden tried to refuse, pulling Erden back. You eat them. Brother 6, we're not hungry. His stomach growled as he said it. That kid broke my heart with how considerate he was. I made them take the food. They ate so carefully, tiny little bites, licking every drop of juice off their fingers. I teased them about germs, and Gooden grinned. Mom says what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Erden nodded seriously. Even if I get a stomachache, this bun is worth it. I nearly died laughing. I sent them home and told them to let Grandpa know I was coming over for drinks tonight. Mom refused to eat a bun herself. Save them for when you're hungry. White flour meat buns were such a luxury that most rural families never ate them all year. She just wanted to save everything for me. I gave up arguing for now and put the rest in the kitchen. Then we opened third sister's package. 2 jars of malted milk powder, half a pound of brown sugar, 3 feet of cotton cloth, and 5 pounds of white flour. All precious things. There was also a letter with 20 yuan tucked inside, money for my bride price. I read the letter aloud since Mom couldn't read. Third sister wrote that she'd heard I was getting married and wanted to help. The malted milk was for Mom's health. She said things were manageable on her end and not to worry. But I knew the truth. Third sister's husband earned 89 yuan a month, which sounded good until you counted what it covered. Their family of 4, monthly support for 4 fallen comrades' families, his own elderly parents, and packages home to us. They weren't comfortable at all. She'd scraped and sacrificed to put this together. I handed the 20 yuan to Mom. Keep the money and the goods safe. I'm going to make braised meat. Mom locked everything in her wardrobe cabinet, the same one where she hoarded all the good stuff exclusively for me. White flour, eggs, brown sugar, all reserved for her precious son. My sisters and sister-in-law could dream about it. That was Mom's brand of love, blatantly unfair and completely unapologetic. I went to the kitchen, lit the stove, and got to work. Hot pan, big scoop of rendered pork fat, Then in went the star anise, bay leaves, rock sugar, cinnamon, and all the other spices I'd bought. When the fragrance hit the air, I added water and brought it to a boil. Within minutes, the richest, most incredible braising aroma I'd ever smelled was pouring out of our kitchen and spreading across the entire yard and beyond. The whole neighborhood could smell it. While I was cooking, the village women were walking home from digging wild vegetables, chatting about me. Ma Fong was bragging about how she'd taken her half-pound of pork back to her parents' village and shown it off right in front of Wang Shui's family. She told everyone how their faces looked when they heard about the 200-pound boar. The women all agreed. Wang Shui had missed out. One of them even tried to set me up with her cousin's daughter, 18, good-looking, great figure. She asked my sister-in-law to put in a good word. Then another woman offered to find a husband for Yudi. My sister-in-law shut that down politely. My brother-in-law says he's going to find Yudi a city man, a factory worker at minimum. That killed the conversation dead. A factory worker? That was a different universe from a farmer. Nobody could compete with that. The women exchanged looks and went quiet. Ma Fong recovered first and laughed. Well, Yudi, your name means inviting a younger brother. And looks like your brother is worth inviting. Just keep taking care of him and you'll live well. Everyone laughed. Yudi was blushing like a tomato, but the other women were looking at her with real envy. In a time when most brothers treated their sisters like servants, having one who actually cared for you was rare. Then they all stopped walking. Up ahead, a crowd had gathered outside our yard. Kids everywhere, adults craning their necks. And then the smell hit them. What I asked that? I've never smelled anything this good in my life. My mouth is watering. I can't stop it. My sister-in-law guessed it might be me cooking the organ meats. The women couldn't believe it. Pig guts smell like that? Nobody laughed at the question. They were all in the same boat, swallowing hard, stomachs growling, imagining what food that smelled this good would taste like. Just the aroma alone could make you eat 2 extra cornmeal buns. Even little Dia woke up from her nap, waving her tiny hands. Meat. Meat. I had no idea what I'd unleashed. In this era, recipes were closely guarded secrets passed from master to apprentice. Nobody shared cooking techniques. But everything I knew came from the internet of my previous life, braising recipes that any amateur could find online. Here, it was like dropping a nuclear bomb on the village's taste buds. I was in the kitchen daydreaming about all the dishes I could make. Cold pig ears, stir-fried pork face with peppers, braised intestines, intestine chicken pot, when Mom burst in. What on earth are you making? The smell is unbelievable. Just pig organs, I said casually. Not bad, right? Not bad? The entire village had gathered outside our fence. The yard is full of people, Mom said nervously. What do we do? I walked outside and nearly jumped. A sea of heads was pressed against our fence. Men, women, kids, all staring at our kitchen door. The swallowing sounds were almost comical. Yofu, what are you cooking? That smell is insane. Half-grown boys were practically drooling on the ground. I smiled. Just some braised organ meats. Nothing special. That's organ meat? No way. I brought out the pot to show them. The meat glistened, deep reddish-brown, soft and bouncy, fragrant beyond description. Pig heart, pig stomach, pig intestines, all transformed. Everyone stared in disbelief. The disgusting scraps nobody wanted had become something that made their mouths water uncontrollably. All right, show's over. Go home before people think something happened here. They had enough pride not to beg. After all, the whole village had just gotten free pork from me. They couldn't complain that I could cook mine better than they could. People started heading home, but a few kids stayed rooted to the spot, noses in the air, drool running down their chins. I knew what would happen tonight across the village. Dozens of families sitting around their tables, frantically sniffing the air drifting from our direction while forcing down their plain cornmeal buns. When Yudi and my sister-in-law got back, little Dia was already waving her hands, screaming, "Meat! Meat!" I picked her up and promised her food, but Yume reminded me she was too young for solid meat. Just eggs and soft food for now. Dia started crying, so I promised her steamed egg custard instead. Egg, she sniffled. Yes, egg. Yummy, yummy. Tears gone, just like that. Kids are amazing. I slipped a white rabbit candy into her hand, and her eyes went bright as stars. A few neighborhood kids were still lingering by the fence, refusing to leave. I gave each of them a candy and sent them home. One little guy, Li Guanqi's son, the man with the ox cart, told me seriously that if his dad ever tried to spank him, he'd tell his grandpa to spank his dad instead. Everyone cracked up. I made him a deal. If you actually get your dad spanked, I'll give you another white rabbit. His eyes went huge. Deal. I promise, Grandpa Yofu. I'll make it happen. He clutched the candy like treasure and marched off with determination. Inside, the braised meats were already sliced and laid out on the table. The sight alone was enough to drive anyone crazy. Glistening, reddish-brown, tender, and bouncy. We've been waiting for you, Mom said. Then let's eat. Nobody could stop. From the very first bite, everyone was hooked. Yudi nearly choked. This is really pig organs? How is this so good? My sister-in-law kept nodding. I never knew these could taste like this. It's better than fatty pork. She searched for better words, but couldn't find any. Fatty pork was the best food she'd ever known. Mom took one bite, and her whole expression softened. If I can eat your cooking once, I'm satisfied. But don't cook again. You used a whole scoop of lard. That scoop could have lasted me half a month. Her real concern was the spectacle. She'd never seen cooking attract a crowd before. It had scared her. Fine, no more cooking shows, I laughed. But you have to eat these meat buns I brought home. I handed one to each of them. My sister-in-law tried to refuse, saying the braised meat was already more than enough and she'd just eat cornmeal buns. These were bought specifically for you. Today, you eat them. That's an order. Under my watchful eye, all 3 women finished their buns. With the braised organs, the buns, and the leftover pork, everyone ate until they were stuffed. Genuinely stuffed on meat. If they told anyone that, nobody would believe it. 50 pounds of raw organs had braised down to about 30 pounds. The 4 of us couldn't finish it all, not even close. After dinner, I divided the leftovers. Part went into my space for storage. The rest I split into 2 portions. 5th sister, take this to Uncle Dachang's house. Tell him it's for drinking with. And make sure nobody sees you on the way. This was about building relationships. The village chief had been fair to me, and I'd need him in the future for travel permits, introduction letters, all the bureaucratic things that could make or break you in this era. Mom didn't argue. Do what your brother says. Go quick. Come back quick. After Yudi left, I packed up the second portion along with the fun liquor and the remaining meat buns. Mom, I'm taking this to Grandpa and Grandma. I promised I'd have drinks with Grandpa tonight. Over at Grandpa's house, dinner was just wild vegetable soup, not even cornmeal buns. After 2 days of fish and chicken, it was back to reality. They'd heard about the incredible smell coming from our kitchen and were dying of curiosity. Second uncle couldn't hold it in. Dad, when is Yofu coming over? Grandma smacked him. You're an elder and you're drooling over your nephew's food? If you don't want to eat what we have, take your wife and kids and leave. Second uncle backpedaled fast. I'm just craving some wine. That's all. Grandpa glared at him. Don't think you can ride on Yofu's kindness just because you're his uncle. Your mother and I are still alive. We decide what happens here, right on cue. I walked in with my goods. Grandma's face lit up like the sun. My golden grandson. Have you eaten? I set everything on the table. Braised meats, the bottle of fun liquor, and the meat buns. The aroma filled the room instantly. Everyone's eyes went wide. Grandpa zeroed in on the liquor. Why'd you buy such expensive wine? It's specifically for you, Grandpa. He grinned so wide I thought his face would crack. Then he turned to second uncle. You've seen it. Now go home. Second uncle's face crumpled. Dad, Yofu, maybe I could just have one tiny sip. I laughed. The wine is for drinking. Let everyone enjoy it. I handed the braised meats to my aunt and asked her to slice some as drinking snacks and let the family have the rest. When she saw it, her jaw dropped. This is pig organs? How can they smell this good? She'd seen pig guts before, stinking, disgusting things. These were nothing like that. Gooden and Erden were practically climbing the walls. Mom, hurry up. I told everyone I'd learned the recipe from a chef friend at the state-run restaurant. That explained everything perfectly. Those chefs were considered the best. Second uncle nodded enviously. No wonder even pig guts taste amazing. Only Grandpa knew the real story, but he said nothing. When the liquor came out, Grandpa snatched the fun bottle and hugged it to his chest. He poured second uncle a tiny measure of the cheap sweet potato liquor instead and saved the good stuff for just the 2 of us. Second uncle took his sip of potato wine and beamed. I haven't tasted alcohol in over a year. This is perfect. The braised meat disappeared fast. The boys stuffed their faces, terrified someone would take their share. Everyone kept raving. "This is the best thing I've ever eaten." Grandpa drank until he passed out at the table. Second uncle and I carried him to bed. At the door, Grandma held my hand, not wanting me to leave. "Come visit often. You don't need to bring anything. Just your face is enough." I told her I'd left 2 meat buns for her and Grandpa. Heat them up before eating. Walking home under the stars, the village was dark and silent. It was past 8 when I got back. Mom had waited up for me and handed me a cup of water. I took a big gulp and stopped. "Mom, did you put sugar in this?" She just smiled and didn't answer either way. "Get some rest," she said. That small sweetness hit me harder than the liquor. I went to my room with a warm feeling in my chest. Over the next 3 days, I threw myself into farming inside the Spirit Spring space. Every time my mental energy recovered, I used it to accelerate crop growth. Finally, everything reached harvest. The results were staggering. Wheat, 1,100 pounds per acre. Rice, 1,800 pounds per acre. I kept 100 pounds of each as seed grain and processed the rest into flour and polished rice. Just for eating, this was enough to feed my whole family for over a year. But I wasn't planning to just eat it. I was getting ready for my second trip to the black market. The next morning after breakfast, I told Mom I'd be out all day and headed for the back mountains at a jog. My body was improving fast. Between the good food, solid sleep, and spirit water, I was getting stronger every day. The trip to the deep forest that used to take over an hour now only took 30 minutes. I could lift 200 or 300 pounds without breaking a sweat. I still didn't know my limits. I checked all 4 of my traps. The pumpkin bait was gone, and there were just chicken feathers inside. The wild chickens had eaten everything and flown right out. A 1-meter pit couldn't hold something with wings. No boars this time either. The herd had probably moved to a different area after I'd grabbed 8 of them last time. I pushed deeper into the forest and found a spring flowing between 2 huge boulders. The water was cold and slightly sweet, though nothing compared to my spirit water. Where there's water, there's wildlife. Sure enough, I heard clucking. Several pheasants spotted me and flew up into a tree. They thought they were safe up there. "Cute," I said, and slapped my hand against the trunk. Every bird on the tree got sucked into my space instantly. That brought my total to 14 pheasants, 7 live boars, and dozens of fish, all frozen and waiting. I was starving again. The spirit water burned through calories like crazy, so I decided to make lunch right there. I plucked and cleaned a pheasant, rubbed it with salt, wrapped it in big leaves, coated the whole thing in mud, and tossed it into a fire. While that cooked, I grilled a fish on a stick. The fish came out tender and delicious. Then I cracked open the mud ball, beggar's chicken. The leaf aroma mixed with the roasted fat was incredible. Even with just salt, it tasted like proper roast chicken. I demolished the whole thing. After washing up in the spring, I headed down the mountain toward town. It was around noon when I reached Jiangfeng's place. Inside, 3 young men were just finishing off a fish, one of mine. They'd cleaned the plate in minutes. One of them sighed. "Who knows when we'll taste meat again? Your turn next time, Mahu." "You'd better find us a chicken," Mahu snapped back. "Where am I supposed to get a chicken?" "And you ate the most fish, Zhang Guowei." Zhang Guowei shrugged sheepishly. "I haven't had meat in half a month. Even a small fish counts." Then they turned on Jiang Feng. Where had the fish come from? He told them about me, the fisherman from Li family village. Mahu perked up immediately. His father-in-law's birthday was coming, and he needed a gift. "Ask your guy if he has more fish." Jiang Feng nodded, then casually mentioned I could also get wild game. Both men froze. "What? Wild game?" Zhang Guowei grabbed Jiang Feng in a headlock. "You've been holding out on us? We've been eating cornmeal buns for weeks, and you have a connection for wild meat." That's when I knocked on the door. "Brother 6. How'd you find me? You weren't at the post office, so I came here. I brought some wild game for you." Jiang Feng introduced his 2 friends, Mahu and Zhang Guowei, both young working men, clearly desperate for anything with protein. Mahu got straight to the point, though a bit awkwardly. "Old 6, I heard you can get wild game. Could I buy some from you? Pheasant, rabbit, boar, anything. I just need to know if you can get enough." He looked nervous and hopeful at the same time. "How much are we talking about?" I asked carefully. "Anywhere from a few dozen pounds to 300 or 400, Mahu said nervously. "Can you manage that?" I was relieved. I'd been afraid he'd say thousands. A few £100 was nothing with what I had stored in my space. It turned out Ma, whose father-in-law ran the logistics department at a research institute under the county's Science and Engineering Commission. Hundreds of people worked there, and they had a full cafeteria with plenty of money and ration tickets, but no actual food to buy. His father-in-law had been complaining about the impossible supply situation, and Ma, who wanted to help. Even better, Ma, who explained that the institute had official authorization for independent rural procurement. Selling wild game to them wouldn't count as black market trading. It would just be unplanned materials. He could even get me an official purchasing certificate. I played it cool. Would that be too much trouble? Inside, I was doing backflips. With an official certificate, I'd be completely protected. No trouble at all. I can have it ready when I get back. I gave him the idea of delivering straight to the institute whenever I had a catch, and he happily agreed, giving me the address. Then Zhang Feng peeked into my basket and found the 2 pheasants I'd brought. His friends immediately started fighting over them. Zhang Guowei grabbed for them first, but Ma Hu shoved him back. It was his turn, plus his father-in-law's birthday was coming up. Those are for Brother Jiang, I said. We had a deal. But what he does with them after that is between you 3. Jiang Feng's smug grin vanished as his 2 friends turned on him with evil smiles. The birds weighed 6.5 pounds total. Jiang Feng paid me 2 yuan per pound, 12 yuan 80 cents. He knew it was a bargain. On the black market, they'd fetch at least 220. I pocketed the money and said goodbye. The pheasants were just pocket change. The real money was the wild boar meat sitting in my space. I changed my appearance and headed to the county black market. This time I came in empty-handed. No basket, nothing visible. The guard at the entrance gave me a look but waved me through. Inside, there were even more buying grain signs than last time. Things were getting worse. I found Wang Matzi at his usual spot. He recognized me immediately and started rubbing his hands together. Little brother, still got that bicycle ticket saved for you. Let's talk about wild boar meat first, I said. I need money before I can buy tickets. His eyes nearly popped out. You really have boar meat? Where? He noticed I had no basket and quickly understood. The quantity was too large to carry by hand. Need me to come with you? He offered. No, just find me a cart. I'll bring it myself. He led me to a courtyard in a nearby alley where 2 of his associates waited with a flatbed cart and a scale. What's your price? I asked. Wang Matzi didn't waste time. Pork is going for $2.50 a pound on the market right now. I'll give you $2.30. I need to make something too. I knew the official price at the supply co-op was only 65 to 75 cents per pound, but that was meaningless since nobody could actually buy any. And selling everything in one batch to Wang Matzi was far easier than dealing with individual buyers. I stayed quiet, calculating. He got nervous, thinking I was unhappy with the price. The truth was, he could sell it to the steel factory down the road for 3 yuan a pound. Factories had money to burn. He gritted his teeth. Fine, $2.50 a pound. Consider it an investment in our friendship. $2.50 a pound? I'd only hesitated for a moment, and Wang Matzi raised his own price. I wasn't going to argue with that. Deal. But these are whole pigs, unprocessed, with skin and bones. He thought it over. For whole pigs, I can do $1.85 per pound. That worked out to about 74% meat yield, which was fair. I agreed and took the cart to the same woods where I'd traded pumpkins before. After checking carefully that nobody was around, I pulled one of the dead boars from my space and loaded it onto the cart. I waited for the blood to cool completely, then pushed the cart back. Wang Matzi came running when he saw me. He grabbed the cart to help push, expecting it to be light since I was handling it so easily. His face changed instantly. This heavy. When he saw the size of the boar, he was even more surprised, both by the animal and by how effortlessly I'd been pushing 300 pounds. The pig weighed 332 pounds. At $1.85 per pound, that came to 614 yuan and 20 cents. 614 yuan. In a time when the average monthly wage was 20 or 30 yuan, that was 2 years of savings. I couldn't help grinning. Time to spend. Wang Matzi, I'll take that bicycle ticket now. And pull out every other ticket you've got. His eyes practically turned into yuan signs. Between the cigarette tickets, liquor tickets, cloth tickets, and cotton tickets, plus the bicycle ticket at 110 yuan, the total came to 187 yuan 20 cents. He handed me the remaining 427 yuan in cash. I stuffed everything into my pockets, and the instant my hands were in my pockets, I transferred it all into my space. Then I flipped him a 2-cent coin for the doorman and headed out. After removing my disguise in a quiet spot, I pulled out my bamboo basket and walked to the state-run department store. 2 floors, much bigger than the supply co-op, selling everything from furniture to fabric to the famous for big items. I went straight to the bicycle counter on the 2nd floor. A bored saleswoman in her 40s was cracking sunflower seeds. A young man was trying to test ride a bike. Can I try it first? Try what? You break it, you pay for it. You buying or not? If not, move along. The guy slunk away embarrassed. Customer service in this era was something else. I stepped up and slapped the bicycle ticket on the counter. I want to buy a bicycle. Her attitude improved immediately. Which brand? Flying Pigeon is $170. Phoenix is $180. Forever is $195. Forever. I put down the cash without hesitating. People around me stared. This was a major purchase. Someone tried to talk me out of it. Young man, save yourself 20 yuan and get the Flying Pigeon. They're all the same. An older woman chimed in. Your future wife will scold you for wasting money. I smiled and thanked them. I don't have a wife yet, so I make my own decisions. And I figure you get what you pay for. The saleswoman perked up at that. Young, good-looking, no girlfriend, and able to buy the most expensive bicycle without blinking? She leaned forward with sudden interest. Where do you work, young man? My cousin's daughter works at the textile factory. Good unit, great benefits, meat and vegetable tickets every month. She's about your age and single. Want me to introduce you to? The people around us started nodding enthusiastically. That's a great match. Say yes. I stood there completely blindsided. It was like that scene from an old movie. Hey, mister, you want a wife? Totally out of nowhere. I quickly waved off the saleswoman's matchmaking offer. I'm too young, not ready for marriage, she laughed. Shy are we? At your age, I already had a 1-year-old. I thanked her and asked her to just process the bicycle. She handed me a receipt and told me to pick it up downstairs, then register it at the police station for plates. Her name was Sister Ho, and she made me promise to come back so she could try introducing me to someone again. The moment I left, some skinny guy tried to take my place. I'm single too. Introduce me, Sister Ho told him to get lost. I could hear the crowd laughing from the stairs. I picked up my shiny new Forever bicycle, checked my watch, just past 2, and rode straight to the police station. Registration cost $150 plus $240 per year in tax. I got a little stamped booklet, just like a car registration in the future. Riding through the streets felt incredible, fast, effortless, and everyone stared. But I wasn't planning to ride it home. Lee Family Village had never seen a single bicycle. If I showed up on one, the whole village would explode with questions I couldn't answer. Until I had a believable explanation for my money, I needed to keep things quiet. I rode to a fishing supply shop first. 4 hooks at 2 cents each, 2 floats at 3 cents, and a fish basket for $150. Total, $164. I didn't need any of this for actual fishing. My space handled everything. But having proper gear made my cover story more believable. I also grabbed a roll of braided cord from a shoe repair stand for 10 cents. Much stronger than the nylon fishing line they sold at the shop. Then I headed to the supply co-op with a mission. Buy every bottle of Matai and every pack of Chunghwa cigarettes they had. Matai was only $2.97 a bottle. Starting next year, it would jump to $4.07 and stay there for over a decade. And both Matai and Chunghwa would become special supply items, impossible to buy even with money. This was my last window. I laid out my tickets on the counter. The clerk's eyes went wide. How many premium tickets is that? She yelled for her colleagues. 3 more workers rushed over. Then someone called for the manager, Director Wong, a chubby middle-aged man in a mouse suit and black-framed glasses. He looked me up and down. Young comrade, why are you buying this much? And where did you get all these premium tickets? These are only issued to officials at deputy division level and above. The other 3 workers' eyes turned sharp. In this era, everyone watched for enemy spies. One wrong answer, and I'd be dragged to the police station. I kept my face perfectly calm. I traded for them. Traded how? With fish. I'm a fishing expert. Every time I go out, I catch anywhere from dozens to 100 pounds. They all stared at me, completely blindsided. They'd expected some complicated spy story, not a fisherman. 100 pounds in one trip? The best fishermen they knew might catch 1 or 2. I was claiming to be 50 times better. One of the women handed me 2 hard candies. Here, young man, have some sweets. Thank you. So, about those cigarettes and liquor? She smiled and went to check the stock with 2 colleagues. Director Wong lingered. He fidgeted for a moment, then asked awkwardly, "Next time you catch fish, could you sell me some?" Sell? Director Wong, I can't sell things. That would be speculation. He smacked his forehead. Right, trade. Could we trade for some? Of course, he muttered, slippery kid, under his breath. The saleswoman came back with the mitai and heard us talking. Director Wong, you can't keep this to yourself. We want fish too. The other 2 workers piled on. Even supply co-op employees were desperate for meat. They were supposed to have the best access in the whole system, but with everyone watching them, they had to set an example and couldn't help themselves to inventory. I promised to bring fish next time I came through. They were thrilled. What's your name, young man? Lee. I'm the 6th in my family, so everyone calls me Old 6. At the supply co-op, I cleaned them out. 12 bottles of mitai, 10 bottles of dukong, 5 bottles of fin liquor, 20 packs of Chunghwa cigarettes, 6 packs of dakiamen, plus cloth bags. Everything together came to under 100 yuan. Prices in this era were unbelievably cheap. Mitai was only $2.97 a bottle. Starting next year, it would become a special supply item and disappear from shelves entirely. I was buying while I still could. The staff helped me load everything onto my bicycle. I'd made friends with all of them, Director Wong, Sister Sun, Brother Zhang, Brother Chen. They all wanted fish, and I promised to bring some next time. In return, I had a direct line into the county's supply system. Once out of sight, I stuffed everything into my space, hopped on the bicycle, and made it to town in 20 minutes instead of the usual hour on foot. Near the village entrance, I stored the bicycle too. Nobody in Lee family village had ever seen one. Riding in would cause a sensation I couldn't explain. I loaded up my bamboo basket from the space. 30 pounds of rice, 30 pounds of white flour, 6 bottles of liquor, 2 fish. First stop, Grandpa's house. Grandma scolded me for bringing too much. We haven't even finished the last batch of meat. When I pulled out the rice and flour, both of them went silent. Their mouths hung open. Then the liquor. Then 2 packs of Chunghwa cigarettes and 2 packs of dakiamen. Grandpa lit up a filtered cigarette for the first time in his life and took a long drag. I've never smoked anything with a filter. My grandson treats me better than my own son ever did. That stung a little. My father had disappeared over 2 years ago, went looking for work and never came back. No letters, no word. In the original Li Youfu's lifetime, there was never any news. Even if Dad isn't here, I said quietly, you still have me. I'll take care of his share of being a good son. Grandma wiped her tears. Grandpa told me to hide everything quickly and not let anyone see. I explained how I'd traded fish for grain with city workers. They had money and ration tickets, but no actual food, while we had nothing but needed everything. The fish bridged the gap. Grandpa asked only one question. Will this get you in trouble? The people I'm trading with are a supply co-op director and a research institute official. If it were illegal, they wouldn't risk their iron rice bowls. That satisfied him. Back home, I brought even more, 50 pounds each of rice and flour, 2 pheasants, and 2 fish. When Yudi saw me staggering and loaded down, she blurted out, "Did you rob someone?" Mom smacked her on the head. Could a robber get rice and flour? Close the gate. The 3 women dragged the bags inside with shaking hands. This wasn't ordinary flour either. It was pure white, no bran, finer than anything they'd ever seen. I sat there playing with Dia like nothing had happened. Call me Uncle Six and I'll give you candy. Candy? Yummy. Mom pulled me into the back room. Where did all this come from? I gave them the same fish trading explanation. Yudi couldn't believe city people would trade premium grain for fish. They must be crazy. I'd never give up rice for some fish meat. They couldn't understand the economics. City workers had guaranteed rations and salaries, but nothing to spend them on. Meanwhile, my fish filled a gap that money couldn't. Mom finally accepted it and handed control to me. From now on, this family does whatever Yofu says. Then tonight we eat white flour steamed buns and stewed chicken, I announced. Yudi practically flew into the kitchen to help my sister-in-law. I lit a Chunghwa cigarette and leaned back in my chair. Mom noticed. Her son was smoking now, but she let it slide. What man didn't smoke? She brought me sweetened water again. I mentioned I'd sent rice and flour to Grandpa's house too. She nodded approvingly. That's the right thing. Your father's been gone 2 years. Your grandparents have been depending on your second uncle's family. It's good you're stepping up. Then she surprised me. Now that you're doing well, you need to look after your older sisters too. I'd been thinking the exact same thing. I'm planning to visit second sister tomorrow. Mom agreed to let Yudi come with me to visit second sister tomorrow. Just then, dinner arrived. A full pot of chicken soup and white flour steamed buns. Real white flour, soft and fragrant. After days of throat-scraping cornmeal buns, this was heaven. While we were eating, something bumped against the gate. I went to check, still chewing on half a bun. When I opened the door, my stomach dropped. It was Wang Shui. She looked terrible. Hollow cheeks, dull skin, clearly hadn't eaten properly in days. But what struck me most was the way she stared at me. I'd changed too, filling out, skin glowing, full of energy from the spirit water and decent food. I could tell she barely recognized me. She sniffed the air. Chicken soup. Her eyes went to the white bun in my hand. I could see the hunger and fury fighting inside her. What do you want? I said flatly. She swallowed hard. Brother Yofu, I haven't eaten yet. I rushed over to tell you good news. My mother agreed. No bride price at all. Not a single cent. We can get married. She stood there with her head down, looking shy and sweet, probably thinking this was her trump card. No bride price. How could I possibly refuse? I finished my bun and looked her dead in the eyes. Whether you've eaten is none of my business. And even if you paid me to marry you, I still wouldn't do it. Now leave. Who's there? Mom called from inside. Nobody, Mom. Keep eating. But she was already at the door. The moment she saw Wang Shui, she exploded. You again? My son already told you. We have nothing to do with your family. Come near him one more time, and I'll scratch your face off. You want me to call the whole village to watch you throwing yourself at my son? Get out. I pulled Mom back inside, grinning. You had to love her. Wang Shui stood outside the gate, hair disheveled, face ashen. Her last card had been played, and it meant nothing. No bride price, and I still didn't want her. She'd smelled the chicken soup, seen the white flour buns, and realized the life she'd thrown away. But instead of reflecting on her own family's greed, all she felt was rage. In her mind, I'd ruined her family's reputation and now refused to take responsibility. Everything was my fault. She stormed home full of hatred, head spinning with the smell of chicken soup and the image of those perfect white buns. Back at the table, 3 pairs of eyes were locked on me. Why does that girl keep coming here? Mom demanded. Yudi asked carefully. Brother, you don't still have feelings for her, do you? I nearly spat out my soup. Are you crazy? I'd rather stay single my entire life than marry that woman. Mom started threatening to find a matchmaker for Yudi, and my poor sister went pale with terror. I quickly stepped in. Mom, I was joking. Don't. I meant it seriously, though. In the original life, when the family couldn't scrape together the 100 yuan bride price, they'd sold fifth sister's future for 20 yuan, married her off to some violent old man in the mountains. She was never heard from again. I would never let that happen. Even if I never married, I wouldn't touch Wang Shui. But don't worry, with everything the ancestors taught me, do you really think I can't find a wife? When I do get married, I'll bring home a beautiful, educated city girl who'll be a perfect daughter-in-law. Mom grinned from ear to ear, pretending not to care. If you can bring home any wife at all, I'll burn incense to thank the heavens. Then I turned to Yudi. Fifth sister, I was kidding earlier. After we visit second sister and first sister, I'm going to find you a proper job. Really? Yudi's face lit up with hope. Mom shut it down immediately. What do you mean, really? Your brother doesn't even have a job himself. If there's a job to be found, he goes first. You stay home, dig wild vegetables, and help around the house. Stop dreaming. Yudi's face went white. My sister-in-law looked away. As a married-in wife, this wasn't her place to speak. Yudi was selfless as always. Mom's right, little brother. Don't worry about me. If you find a job opportunity, take it yourself. Once you're a city man, you can find a city wife. I looked at Mom. Do you really think I'll be stuck as a farmer forever? That I can't find work? That hit her nerve. Mom would sell everything, sacrifice all her daughters without blinking, if it meant getting her son out of the countryside. She'd always believed in the fortune teller's words from when I was born. This child is destined for great fortune. She backtracked. That's not what I meant. Good. Because a little county job wouldn't even satisfy me. I'm aiming for the provincial capital, or maybe Beijing itself. If I settled for some small-town position, the ancestors who taught me all these skills would be so disappointed they'd climb out of their coffins. Don't you dare joke about the ancestors. Mom slapped her hand over my mouth. You're going to burn incense and apologize right now. Yudi and my sister-in-law went pale at the coffin image. Yume clutched Dia tight. I laughed. Relax, I'm kidding. Then I got serious with Yudi. Fifth sister, don't feel guilty. We're family. Same mother, same blood. I can't sit here eating well while you suffer. You've always given me everything good you had. I remember all of it. Her eyes filled with tears. I'll be good to you my whole life, little brother. Don't cry. It's not a big deal. And I meant it. Getting a job in this era wasn't that hard if you had money. Work positions could be inherited or transferred, which meant job slots could be bought privately. 300 yuan wouldn't buy one. Try 500. 500 wouldn't work. 1,000 yuan could get you almost any position in the country. Money wasn't my problem anymore. That night, I went into the spirit space and pushed 2 acres of wheat and rice to maturity, then planted both acres with corn. Corn was the main grain most people ate, but they ground up the whole cob, husks, stalks, everything, into that terrible, scratchy cornmeal. Pure corn flour existed, but was considered a luxury. My spirit-powered grinding produced flour so pure and fine that eating it was wonderful, but selling it would raise eyebrows. I'd need to be careful. The corn harvest was impressive, over 4,200 pounds from 2 acres. I kept 200 as seed and ground the rest into pure corn flour, keeping the rough husks separate in case I ever needed to make the common coarse version. The next morning, we ate quickly, leftover chicken soup, steamed buns, and eggs. While eating, I mentally harvested the corn in my space. I packed the basket with 10 pounds of rice, 10 pounds of flour, and a handful of white rabbit candies for second sister. Hidden in my space, I had another 30 pounds of corn flour ready. Mom came out with the leftover wild chicken and tucked it into the basket. Take this to your second sister too. Thanks, Mom. We're heading out. Yudi insisted on carrying the basket herself, all 20-some pounds of it. She refused to let me touch it. I'd planned to store everything in my space and carry an empty basket, pulling things out before we arrived, but she wouldn't let go. The walk was over 15 miles. It would take us until nearly noon. My body felt fine thanks to the spirit water, but Yudi was sweating after a while. Then she pointed ahead excitedly. Look, we're almost there. That's second sister's house, 2 mud brick rooms behind a low fence. In my previous life, I'd visited a few times, but always showed up empty-handed. This time felt completely different. Second sister, are you home? A boy came out. My nephew Dahu, second sister's older son. Yudi greeted him warmly, but he just stood there stiff and angry. When I offered him candy, he wouldn't even look at it. Why are you here? His voice was cold and hard. Then second sister came out of the house, and my heart sank. There were bruises on her face. What happened to your face? I demanded. Did your husband hit you? Where is that bastard? In the previous life, second sister had been beaten to death by her husband. Seeing those bruises made my fists clench. She forced a smile and lied, said she'd tripped. Then she changed the subject, asking about my marriage situation and telling me to listen to Mom. She was doing what she always did, pretending everything was fine. Then Daha broke. Mom, we don't have any food. Era's been sick for 2 days. His voice cracked with anger, and he glared at me. Every time you people visit, nothing good happens. Mom gave her cornmeal to your family, and now Eru doesn't even have a single bite to eat. His words hit me like a truck. In the original timeline, second sister had secretly brought us cornmeal. I'd only just learned about it days ago. Now her own child was starving and sick because of it. Where's Eru? I asked. Take me to him. Now, let go of me. This is your fault. I pushed past him into the house. The inside was heartbreaking. No decent furniture, newspaper pasted on crumbling walls, a broken plank bed, and a stool with a bowl of cold vegetable soup on it. Eru was lying on the bed, eyes closed, face bright red. I touched his forehead, burning hot. Definitely a high fever. Why haven't you taken him to the hospital? I turned on my sister. Hospitals cost money. I don't have any. Kids are tough, he'll pull through. In the original life, I vaguely remembered that Eru had grown up mentally disabled. Was it this fever that damaged his brain? If we didn't act now, this child's entire future could be destroyed. I wanted to shake some sense into her, but yelling wouldn't help. I softened my voice. Second sister, Go find an ox cart right now. I'll handle everything else. Yudi grabbed her arm. Listen to him. Go. She hesitated for only a second, then ran outside like her life depended on it. I wrapped Eru in his blanket and picked him up. Dahu blocked the doorway. You're really taking him to the hospital? Yes. Come with us if you don't believe me. He nodded seriously and stepped aside. Within minutes, second sister came back with a neighbor, old Lou, and his ox cart. We loaded Eru onto the back. While nobody was looking, I poured a little spirit water into a cup of regular water and gave it to second sister. Keep giving him water. When kids have a fever, they need to stay hydrated. If it turns into pneumonia, things get really dangerous. Old Lou nodded approvingly. The boy's right. Keep giving him water. Second sister fed Eru a few sips. He drank a little, then closed his eyes again. We all climbed onto the cart, and old Lou whipped the ox into a faster trot. An hour later, we reached the county hospital. Second sister, take Eru inside first. I need to talk to old Lou for a moment. She rushed in with Yudi and Dahu, calling for a doctor. Please, he's been burning up for 2 days. The doctor touched Eru's forehead and frowned immediately. What kind of parents are you? The child is this sick and you're only bringing him now. He took Eru's temperature. 39.8 degrees. This is dangerously high. Outside the hospital, I gave old Lou a Chunghwa cigarette and 2 yuan for his trouble. He tried to refuse the money, said a good smoke was reward enough, but I insisted. Then I asked him for one more favor. When you get back, tell my brother-in-law Zheng Jihong something for me. Tell him his son is at the county hospital and I'll cover everything. But the matter of him hitting my sister? That's not over. I dropped the cigarette and walked inside without waiting for his reaction. The hospital was basic, 2 or 3 floors, white walls, reeking of disinfectant. I found second sister and the others quickly. She and Dahu were on their knees begging the doctor to save Eru. What are you doing? Get up. I pulled them to their feet and turned to the doctor. What's causing the fever? Viral? Bacterial? Can we start with a fever-reducing injection? The doctor raised an eyebrow. You know medical terms? It's a common cold that's turned into a high fever. He needs an injection, and honestly, and 4 drip would be better to bring his temperature down. Can you arrange a hospital stay? We came a long way. Sure. Pay 20 yuan up front as a deposit. Second sister nearly fainted. 20 yuan. Her entire family's income last year hadn't reached 10 yuan. Don't worry about money, I told her. I'll handle it. Just focus on Eru. I paid the deposit and got him admitted to room 307. Once the 4 started flowing, I finally relaxed. Medicine worked fast on people in this era. They'd never been exposed to antibiotics before, so their bodies responded immediately. 20 minutes later, Daho touched his brother's forehead and shouted, "He's not hot anymore." "Mom, his fever's gone." Second sister smiled for the first time all day. "Thank your uncle." "Thank you, uncle." Daho's gratitude was real this time. I ruffled his hair and offered him the white rabbit candies again. This time he took them, but only after checking with his mother first. "Uncle, can I wait and eat them with Eru when he wakes up?" "You eat yours now. I've got more for Eru." He carefully unwrapped one and his eyes lit up. "So sweet." "Mom, you have one too." She shook her head. "You eat. I need to talk to your uncle." "Alone with me?" She looked down. "Thank you for today. I'll pay you back for the hospital. I promise. Don't mention it. I'm going out to buy some food. Watch Eru." She wanted to send Yudi and Dahu with me, but I needed to go alone. Too many secrets to manage. I told them I knew the county well and left. Behind me, I could hear second sister interrogating Yudi. What happened to him? Where's his money coming from? Yudi whispered the ancestor story into her ear. I could imagine second sister's face, stunned, confused, but unable to argue with results. Once outside, I ducked into a quiet alley and pulled out my bicycle. Then I rode straight to the supply co-op with a basket full of live fish from my space. Sister son, the moment they saw me, all 4 staff members swarmed over. Brother Chen grinned. "I thought you'd take days to come back, and here you are the very next day." They peered into the fish basket. "Look at all these. They're huge. And still alive." Director Wang came out and immediately took charge. "Don't all crowd around here. Someone go watch the front. We'll weigh everything, then figure out how to split it." Zhang Chunlei got stuck with guard duty. "Why me?" he protested. "The fish aren't going anywhere. Now go." He trudged to the door, then turned back. "Don't cheat me out of my share." I couldn't help laughing. These people were hilarious. At the supply co-op, the staff weighed my fish. 13 fish, 52 pounds total. Director Wang offered 90 cents per pound, even more than the black market price, since mine were alive and fresh. I told him to keep it at 80 cents, but asked if I could trade some fish for supplies instead of all cash. I needed a thermos, a couple of enamel mugs, some aluminum lunchboxes, and grain ration tickets. Wang smiled. You've got some appetite, kid. You know all that stuff needs tickets too, right? That's why I'm asking you, Brother Wang. He laughed and agreed. Sister Sun and Brother Chen even chipped in their own grain tickets, a pound each, plus 2 from Wang. For pounds of grain tickets total, which would be enough for a couple days at the hospital, I traded 10 pounds of fish for the supplies and tickets. The remaining 42 pounds came to 34 yuan in cash. Wang rounded up and told me to remember him when I had meat. I knew I was getting the better deal. They were investing in a relationship with me, and I was happy to reciprocate. Sister Sun tied everything to the back of my bicycle. I thanked them all and rode to the state-run restaurant. I ordered a vinegar cabbage dish, spicy shredded potatoes, braised pork, and 10 steamed buns. 1 yuan 40 cents plus 2 pounds of grain tickets. Half my new tickets gone already. Restaurant food was expensive relative to wages. This single meal cost what some workers earned in 2 or 3 days. When I walked into the hospital room, Eru was awake. He was small and pale, but his fever was gone. Eru, this is your uncle, second sister told him. Uncle, the little boy said quietly. I opened the aluminum lunch boxes with a dramatic flourish. Guess what Uncle brought? Red braised pork. The smell hit the whole room. The two boys' eyes locked onto the food and didn't move. There was braised pork, shredded potatoes, cabbage, and white flour buns. Second sister protested about the cost. I told everyone to shut up and eat. The food was incredible. Even a small county restaurant had chefs with real skill in this era. The braised pork was glazed red, crispy outside, melt in your mouth soft inside. Even little Eru, fresh from his fever, ate with grease all over his face. I ate 3 buns. The other 4 split the remaining 7. Every last drop of sauce was mopped up with bread. Nothing was wasted. Thank you, Uncle, both boys said together. We're family. Stop thanking me. Then I got serious. I looked at second sister. What are you going to do about Zheng Jihong? She looked confused. What do you mean? He beat you. You can see the bruises on your own face. You think I'm going to let that slide? A man who hits you once will hit you again. Domestic violence only has 2 numbers, 0 and infinity. I don't want to get news someday that he beat you to death. She grabbed my arm in a panic. Don't do anything stupid. He's dangerous. She wasn't worried about her husband. She was worried about me. I stared her down. I'm not doing anything stupid. I'm going to teach him a lesson. And I don't care that the kids are listening. I meant it. Second sister and I shared blood. If Dahu and Eru couldn't understand that their father beating their mother was wrong, then that was their problem, not mine. Yudi thought I was exaggerating about the danger. Come on, he wouldn't actually kill her. He'd go to prison. But I knew the truth. In the previous life, Zheng Jihong beat second sister regularly. Black eyes and swollen faces were normal. He got bolder because he knew her family would never fight back. Then one day, he went too far and killed her. By the time our family found out, 3 months had passed, and she was already buried. The village took his side. No evidence, no justice. I only learned the truth years later from someone else's mouth. By then it was far too late. Second sister's eyes turned red. Part of her wanted me to stand up for her. Part of her was terrified I'd get hurt fighting her husband. She'd been raised on mom's words. A married daughter is water poured out. Don't bring trouble to your family. Take care of your brother. I looked her in the eyes. As long as I'm alive, nobody touches you. When Era gets better, you're coming home with us. Zheng Jihong can come crawling on his knees to apologize and swear he'll never hit you again. Only then do you go back. Otherwise, you and the boys live with us. I promise, as long as I have food, you won't go hungry. I'd thought about telling her to just divorce him. But in this era, a divorced woman carried a terrible stigma. So I took a different approach, planted a seed in her mind that her family would always have her back. That was the difference between this life and the last one. Yudi backed me up. He's right, second sister. Your husband needs to apologize properly. But what about Mom? Second sister asked nervously. I grinned. Mom listens to me now. I run the house. Yudi confirmed it, laughing. It's true. Even I take orders from him. Second sister looked stunned. The little brother she remembered as lazy and useless was now the head of the family? Meanwhile, back at her village, Zheng Jihong came home to an empty house. No wife, no kids, no sound. He started cursing, assuming second sister had run off to her parents' house again. In his mind, he'd been justified in hitting her. She'd given away their last 3 pounds of cornmeal to her family without asking, while their own son was sick. Then old Lu pulled up with his ox cart. Your brother-in-law came today. He took Eru to the county hospital. Your wife and both boys went too. Zheng Jihong's eyes bulged. County hospital? That's impossible. Where would they get the money? I drove them there myself. You think I'm making this up? Zheng Jihong's brain short-circuited. His wife had no money. If the family could have afforded a hospital, they wouldn't have been trying to let the boy tough it out. That meant Li Youfu had paid. But how? That useless kid? Then old Lu delivered my message. Your brother-in-law also said to tell you. The business about you hitting his sister? It's not over. He gave Zheng Jihong one last piece of advice. You've got kids together. Talk things out. Stop using your fists. Then he walked away, leaving my brother-in-law standing there in shock. That's when Zheng Jihong noticed the 2 bamboo baskets in the corner of the yard, the ones Yudi and I had brought. He looked inside. Fish, white rice, white flour. He pinched himself hard. Not a dream. The food was real. Nobody else had visited today. This had to be from his wife's family, the same family he'd been bad-mouthing to everyone, the same brother-in-law he called a useless parasite. He'd beaten his wife over 3 pounds of cornmeal she'd given to her family. And her family had turned around and brought them rice, flour, and fish, things his household hadn't seen in months. He stood there staring at the baskets, not knowing what to feel. Back at the hospital, second sister suggested we check Eru out that afternoon to save money. The kid had bounced back amazingly. Nearly 40 degrees of fever, 1-4 drip, and he was practically back to normal. Kids in this era were incredibly tough. But I wasn't taking any chances. In the previous life, this fever had damaged Eru's brain permanently. Let's wait a bit longer and observe him. I need to run an errand anyway. If he's still doing well when I get back, we'll leave. Second sister offered to send Yudi with me, but I needed to go alone. Too many secrets. I promised Yudi I'd take her shopping in the county next time, then headed out. My destination was the research institute where Ma Hu's father-in-law worked. The guard stopped me at the gate. I handed him a Chunghwa cigarette and asked him to call Director Qian from the logistics department. One look at the premium cigarette, and his whole attitude changed. I tucked a second one behind his ear for good measure. He trotted off happily. A few minutes later, he returned with a middle-aged man in a pressed mouse suit and polished leather shoes. Director Qian. Square jaw, sharp eyes, the look of someone who'd navigated bureaucracy for decades. Mahu told me about you, he said, leading me to his office. He got straight to business. Can you really get wild game? It's not just me. It's from our whole village, I said carefully. He smiled at that. He was too experienced to believe it, but smart enough not to press. If you can bring me wild game, you'd be doing me a huge favor. My workers haven't seen meat in weeks, and they're getting restless. I'll pay top price. Could I trade for ration tickets instead of cash? He pulled open his desk drawer. My eyes nearly fell out. It was like a ticket treasure chest. Cigarette tickets, liquor tickets, cloth tickets, cotton tickets, pastry tickets, sugar tickets, bicycle tickets, sewing machine tickets, and piles of grain tickets. Take your pick, he said. I'd been wrong about something important, though. He explained that grain tickets were mainly for restaurants and train travel. To actually buy grain from a grain station, you needed a household grain booklet. All my assumptions from the future about how the ration system worked had just been turned upside down. Good thing I learned this now. Director Qian, Uncle Qian, do you want wild boar? His breathing quickened. He grabbed my hand. Yes, absolutely yes. You have no idea how hard my job has become. Workers complain every day about no meat, but there's nothing on the market. I'll pay you 3 yuan per pound. 3 yuan per pound. The Research Institute clearly had money to burn. I played reluctant. I thought we were trading for tickets. Fine, tickets, cash, whatever you want. Can you lend me a vehicle? I'll have it here before the end of the day. He gave me a 3-wheeled cargo bike. An hour later, I rode back through the institute gates with a massive boar loaded on the back. Workers came running from every direction. Is that pork? Real pork? I haven't tasted meat in a month. Director Chien is a miracle worker. I parked the bike at the logistics building where Uncle Chien and two workers were waiting, grinning like kids on New Year's. Let them handle the weighing and butchering, he said. Come to my office for tea. I trust you, Uncle Chien. His smile got even wider. Let's go. Let's go. Tea's waiting. In Uncle Chien's office, we settled in with tea. You've done me a huge favor, he said, pulling open his ticket drawer. Take whatever you need. I didn't hold back. Cigarette tickets, liquor tickets, sugar tickets, pastry tickets. I grabbed everything useful. I also took over 60 pounds of grain tickets, 40 of which were national tickets with no expiration date. The local ones had to be used within the month. The total value of all the tickets came to about 73 yuan 50. Uncle Chien rounded down. A worker named Yang Jiqiang. Everyone called him Qiangzi. Knocked and reported the boar weighed 278 pounds. Uncle Chien told him to have the crew stay late and process all the meat tonight. Qiangzi was the cafeteria manager, built like you'd expect a chef to be, big belly, big smile. He invited me to stay for dinner and drinks, but I had to get back to the hospital. Then Uncle Chien surprised me. Old Six, how about coming to work here? I need a procurement officer, someone to handle supply acquisitions for the institute. I'd start you at grade 10 clerk pay, $27.50 a month, plus benefits. That was generous. Most new hires spend a year or two as apprentices earning less, then needed 2 promotions to reach that level. He was offering me a shortcut because he wanted to lock me down as his meat supplier. But my ambitions were bigger than a county-level job. Uncle Chien, I appreciate it, but I'm not ready to join a work unit just yet. He was disappointed but didn't push. The offer stays open. Change your mind anytime. We settled the accounts. He gave me the top rate, 75% meat yield at $2.25 per pound for the dressed weight. After subtracting the tickets I'd already taken, he owed me 553 yuan. He counted out 555 and told me to keep the change for cigarettes. Then he handed me something even more valuable than cash, an official procurement certificate with a red stamp already on it. With this document, I could buy and transport meat legally. No more worrying about being accused of black market speculation. At the gate, I gave the guard another cigarette. He grinned and told me Uncle Chien had cleared me for direct access to the logistics department from now on. No more waiting at the gate. What a day! I'd earned back over 600 yuan, collected enough tickets to last week's, secured a legal procurement certificate, and built relationships with the supply co-op and the research institute. The path was clear now. Trade wild game for money and tickets, use those to take care of my family, and keep building connections. I didn't need to be a scientist or an inventor. But if I could keep the people doing that work well fed, that was my own way of contributing to this country's future. Back at the hospital, Eru was sitting up and chatting. I felt his forehead, cool and normal. The kid wanted to go home. The total hospital bill came to 11 yuan 20 cents. With the 20 I'd deposited, I got 880 back. Expensive by normal standards, but after earning 600 in a single day, it was nothing. Second sister wanted to leave, so I handled the paperwork and we all met outside. We hired an ox cart for the ride back. But the closer we got to Li Family Village, the more nervous second sister became. Walking back through the village, everyone we passed greeted me warmly. Kids, adults, old folks. I handed out candy to the children and cigarettes to the men. Second sister watched all this with growing disbelief. She kept whispering to Yudi, "Since when is our little brother this popular?" Yudi shrugged. "He's not the old Li Yofu anymore. And these people have all benefited from him. A little hello is the least they can do." When we reached home, I collapsed into a chair. "Mom, water. I'm dying." Mom turned around and saw second sister standing there with her 2 boys. She paused, looked at them, then walked right past them to get my water. "Mom," second sister said nervously. Mom ignored her completely. Second sister shot me a panicked look. I waved it off. "Relax. Sit down, everyone." Little Dia came toddling out, calling for me. I scooped her up and she buried her face in my chest, shy about the strangers. I coaxed her into sharing some candy with Dahu and Eru. She looked at the sweets in her tiny hand, then at the 2 boys, struggling with the hardest decision of her little life. Finally, she waddled over and handed them each a piece, then ran back to me looking like she'd lost a fortune. Everyone cracked up. My sister-in-law came out, surprised to see the extra guests. Mom came back with my water, Sugar water again, of course. Then Mom got down to business. She looked at second sister with sharp eyes. What happened to your face? Second sister froze. Her hands were shaking. The boys didn't dare breathe. Zhang Jihong hit you, didn't he? Second sister just stood there crying silently. I jumped in. Mom, that bastard beat my sister. I brought her home. Unless he comes here, gets on his knees, and swears he'll never touch her again, she's not going back. Mom's first reaction was practical, not emotional. Where's everyone going to sleep? You didn't think this through. Second sister can share with fifth sister. You can sleep with fourth sister-in-law and Daya. I'll keep my room. And what about meals? That's a lot of mouths. Mom, am I not feeding this family? Have I ever let anyone go hungry? She slapped my arm. You little brat. Do you think I'm so heartless I'd turn away my own daughter? I grinned. Of course not. You're the kindest, most righteous mother in the world. She rolled her eyes. You always have to have the last word. Then she turned to second sister. Fine. You're staying. Tonight we'll figure out the sleeping arrangements. Now come help me cook. You've caused enough worry for one day. Second sister's face broke into a trembling smile. Yes, Mom. Mom marched into the kitchen with second sister behind her. Through the door, I could hear them talking and laughing. That was what a real home sounded like. I sat alone in my chair, Daya on my lap, listening to the noise from the kitchen. Dahu and Eru sat quietly on stools, still a little overwhelmed. Is this really going to be okay? I muttered to myself. From the kitchen came the sound of my mother scolding second sister about how to properly slice vegetables, and second sister's soft laughter in response. Yeah, it was going to be okay.